Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach is as flat as the earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Wind Rider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, hopefully we're joined by a few people in G Plus and in Discord, so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show. Hello.
Is my sound okay?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I'm in a different building in the properties. We had guests at the house, so I didn't want to wake them up.
Slightly clearer, if anything.
What's that?
Slightly clearer, if anything.
Oh, good. Must be the acoustics in here. No, seriously. It's a bunch of couches and chairs and rugs and woodwork in a small room. So
I thought you said it's because of the crucifix in here.
oh my gosh. You got my words crossed. Don't start punning with me. Or don't get me start punning. Too early.
I'm going to say, if a crucifix can increase the performance of my acoustics, certainly something I'll be looking at.
You
If not,
you didn't
maybe
get
not.
you didn't get my cross pun.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you should have paid homage to that first.
Paid homage.
My gosh, it's just like, wait a minute,
Oh,
let's going back
we
to
should
the
stop.
line that set me up.
We'll get sacrilegious pretty quick if we don't stop soon.
Don't worry, I'm not religious, so.
Fair enough.
Anyway, hey, I listened to. Do you gotta get coffee or something? Should I give you time?
I'm actually all set up and ready, and I've done everything I need
Yeah,
to do.
I was listening to. I didn't even get to finish it, but listen to Tuesday's show that you aired Wednesday. Because you had said yes, I don't know, somewhere in chat or live, the last few shows were really good, and I was saying, well, I know I'm on them, but what in particular was he referencing? So so I went back to Tuesday's show, and yeah, that was really good. But I can't wait to finish it. There were so many points, now I can't remember any of them.
Same with yesterday's show. I mean, it went completely off topic, talking about COVID laws, because it's in the news at the moment, which is fair enough, I suppose.
That was Wednesday's show. We had fun in the chat, didn't we?
I don't know.
No, you and me were.
Oh right, yes.
In
the chat when it aired, yes, indeed. With Wiggles, what a clown!
No, I wasn't. I didn't even catch that part. I came on late because I had work to do, and then I said, "Oh, okay, he's in chat. Let me see what they're talking about." Next thing I know, we're having fun with Arwen, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, there's a few clowns that come into the chat that are reasonably well-known names, like Professor Phil Bell and Wiggles. They just get slaughtered. I don't really understand why they come in. It doesn't make any sense to me. can almost taste
It's
the pain, though.
well, it's like the Normandy landing. You know, the people who went to Omaha Beach had the real battle. That's like coming on your show live. And then the people who were the soldiers that were on some of these other beaches where there was no resistance, that's like your chat. They think they can go there and make an easy landing. Next thing you know, oh, he's in chat. Oh, all his subscribers are in chat and they're kicking my butt. They don't realize there's a fight there too.
Yeah, it comes to something when it takes having almost 19,000 subscribers and 5+ years under your belt doing this subject to get to the point where I'll rewind a bit. Naively, I thought when I put out my first couple of videos that there'd be a community of people that would be, backing me up in my comments or whatever. Well, no. You're massively overrun by trolls. Whereas now it's reached the point where I go into the comments every so often. There's too many to dedicate that much time to it, but I'll go in and I'll see subscribers and members annihilating chat trolls. And they'll more than happily spend an hour of their time just ripping to shreds some nonsense claim made by a troll. Yeah, great. Occasionally I'll go in and stick a few, the hearts that you can do on a good comment.
Yeah. It's flipped, right? I mean, from the early days, that's what you're observing.
Well, no, the consistency of the trolling is always going to be higher than the consistency of the people who are defending the nonsense assertion that we're on a sphere, because the majority of the Western world think we're on a sphere. So, in some form or another, there's always going to be a detractor that wants to express their pain through the comment section.
Yeah, but I've seen your loyal subscribers just stick it to them. I mean, they just won't take any garbage, begging the question. No matter what fallacy comes out, they're just like hitting them hard.
That's the thing. They know the arguments. That's why it's it makes me smile. Hey, Paul, by the way.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, Paul. Good morning, Paul. So if you were going to talk to an expert on gas pressure and the different gases that are pressurized, what questions would you ask, Nathan?
I'd ask him how you can have gas pressure without a container.
That'd be, of course, high on the top. What else? Would you ask about the nature of gas being unbonded and so forth?
Not really. I don't know why I'd need to ask. What are you driving at?
Well, I set up for my next video on the channel, if it comes in that order. There's a local business, and the guy sells compressed air and gas and all kinds of things to welding companies, to restaurants, etc. So I reached out and I said, hey, can I come by your place of business? And I have a YouTube community and a show, and we discuss how, many gases there are, what happens when you compress them, what if you apply heat and cold to the tank, how thick is the tank, all these different questions that I'm going to write down. And he said, sure, how about next week? Give me your contact info. So I've got a chance to put out a video on a business that deals in gas pressure. So I'm just trying to make sure I cover all my questions so I can put out good content.
Fair enough. I can't think of anything to advise to ask, because it's usually the case that what I would ask would be based on a nonsense assertion made by a fundamentalist religious globehead zealot.
Yeah, I have to come at it from a different point of view. I have to come at it with the reality of gas, not ascribed to our topic, but just, obviously you can't have pressure without a container, or there are gases that have to be in thicker containers when they're really, really pressurized. And when you compress them really, really hard, when does the phase change start? When they more like fluid-like, I believe, is the way to describe it. Is that right? Not liquid, but fluid-like.
Arbitrary, but yes, people do describe them as fluids. Yeah.
So phase changes. What was it take to convert it to go from one phase to another? Like, get all the details about it, because they got liquid nitrogen over there, and all that kind of stuff. And the tanks are like cold and, etc.
I honestly can't think of any good questions to ask.
Paul, how about you?
Because once you've ascertained with that person whether or not they can have gas pressure without a container, once they say, no, you've got to have a container, what else is there to ask?
Well, I think it's more of that's going to be so obvious when my video picks up that all the gas he's selling is in containers. It goes without saying. That's going to be so obvious.
Maybe ask him if there's any special circumstances that he can think that would violate that antecedent consequent relationship. See if he can come up with anything. You know, in other words, think like a baller and think if you were a baller and you were talking to this guy, what would you want from him? Well, you'd want him to give an example that demonstrated gas pressure without a container. Well, if he's a gas pressure container expert, whatever that may be, then just, fish for them, fish on their behalf. Anything
I got that one written down already. I'm just looking for more of a educational video that takes the rug from under the baller's feet. Because, ballers say weight, gas has weight, and it's the individual molecule, the weight of the individual molecule of gas that's holding it where it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go into the details to where, sure, once you compress it and contain it, the tank that you have it in gets heavier because you're compressing air or whatever gas you got in there.
Sure, I hope it's beneficial. I'm sure you'll think of some poignant questions to ask him, and I'm sure in conversation there'll be some poignant replies.
Yeah, it's so obvious you need a container that one will be, every time you see an image, you'll see that. And then I'll ask him, of course, is there any way other than containers to compress gas, of course. But I want to do a more full video on the different types of gases and what affects them, all those things, so that, because, when you listen to the ballers, they're so desperate, they lose so bad on this one, that they, I don't know whether you call it red herring or straw man or whatever, they start changing it. And I don't want, so, well, what about this sulfur hexafluoride? Or what about, butane? And how long does it take for the heavier gases to, all these different, I don't know it, but maybe this guy does.
Maybe.
Well,
I can tell you one of their answers.
Go ahead, John. What's one of their answers?
They will assert an imaginary container. No kidding.
Yeah, okay. So they've got a special pleading fallacy to offer. That's nice.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It was in one of your comments, somebody posted, it doesn't matter if the container is real or imaginary. I said, well, could you demonstrate an imaginary container holding in gas pressure?
And did they satisfy your request?
They probably blocked me or something. They never answered back.
They didn't demonstrate gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container then, as asserted by an imaginary container.
No, that's just silly.
Yeah.
They ain't going to demonstrate.
No. But thank you.
I guess when I first got into this, I expected more from
more from
both
who?
side.
Okay, well, let's start with Flat Earth.
Kind of,
what more were you expecting from our side of the argument?
No, from the globe. Because I thought I knew what the Earth was. And, there was a lot of things that I could bring up in my mind to try to explain things away, like hydrostatic equilibrium. It's like every example for the globe, they use a container and then describe what happens within that container to say that there is no container.
Yeah, yes, precisely.
And I never really thought about that before. I just thought, they're just doing this to explain it.
Well,
but
hopefully, John,
really, that's all I got.
Well, hopefully you've recognised from the show, I know you're a regular, so explanations, as Anthony puts it, are just poetry, right? Descriptions in mathematics, descriptions in language. Shouldn't have said explanations, I meant descriptions. Just describing stuff. describing how a container works to describe how they don't need one. Well, that isn't a demonstration. Poetry, in other words.
Yeah, it's a bit bothersome when I look back on it, and especially where I have young kids and they're in school right now. I take a peek at their books, and like there's a lot of religious viewpoints being taught without telling them that they are, philosophies and things like that. So I try to contextualize it for them.
Yeah, it's difficult, because a lot of the propaganda has made its way into popular culture, and popular culture for children is cartoons that include space dinosaurs and things of that nature. So, yeah, unless you're constantly monitoring precisely what they're doing, or what they're consuming, I should say, then it's hard to, you can't constantly say, well, that's just imaginary, because they blur the lines, don't they? So on the one hand, you've got a cartoon with, dogs being people. They anthropomorphize these dogs into these characters, and that's obviously imaginary. But by the same token, you've then got something that's contextualized with a cartoon, but they're talking about traveling to the moon. You're like, well, that's imaginary. But how do you distinguish between the two? They're both imaginary. But they're learning how characters interact, as in how people interact when they've got these, as I say, anthropomorphized dogs. But when it's not even an anthropomorphization, but a description of a fantasy place, how can you contextualize that for a child as being useful in the one context of learning social aspects and, things of that nature, whereas the other one you say, well, that's not useful to you, it's just imaginary. In fact, quite the reverse. It's almost a prison for your mind. You can't really go into that with a 4-year-old.
The best way I've been able to describe it to them so far is, before you make a decision on anything, try to learn both sides of the argument to where you can argue them for 5 minutes coherently.
Yeah, that's my attitude. Teach them critical thought is what you're essentially saying. If you can teach them critical thinking, you don't have to sit around micromanaging every single piece of information that comes their way, because you've taught them how to critically think. So yes, that's indeed my plan. But like I say, with a 4-year-old, teaching critical thinking, you can only plant the seeds at this stage.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem. Like most everything out there puts a bias in there, whether the people that are doing it know it or not. Which I guess that's something that I went through, and I'm still dealing with, is trying to figure out what is and what I've been told is.
Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know. If you're holding on to some axiom that you assume is totally correct and sound, and then somebody comes along and points out that it isn't, for whatever reason, then, like any other person who we oppose typically, you're going to have that little moment, that cognitive break. I'll just give you an example. So I can't remember who it was. It might have even been you, John. Was talking about the shadows on the moon. And they're just describing an eclipse. But in their mind, even though it's a heliocentric notion, the person that's detailing it has got that axiom very much cemented in their mind that what's going on is a shadow. Well, it's not. That's just the way it's been described with a heliocentric worldview. But that axiom is just part of the programming that you don't necessarily recognise. I've heard other people who've come to the subject of flat Earth and still believe in NASA. They don't let go of that particular aspect. I don't know how they cope with us saying, well, space is fake. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure without a container. The heliocentric model has NASA operating in space, which is fake. Therefore, everything they do is automatically fake because it's being claimed to be taking place in a fake place. So you can't really hang on to NASA, but there are certainly people that will hold on to it because the programming is that good. Even when you recognise that the ground beneath your feet has been based on an assumption and a philosophy, you still think, well, but obviously they wouldn't lie to us about being out in the sky vacuum now, would they? It's just the sky vacuum above the flat plane. Well, no, it's not. That's a violation of natural law. But like I say, there's certain people who I've literally had testimony from describe to me how they still believe in that nonsense.
Well, one of the best things they do, which is kind of a brainwashing technique, is the word understand. because it's kind of drilled into us through school that if we don't understand, we're stupid. So we say we understand a lot of times when we don't. Instead of asking questions like we should, we just kind of give in to the peer pressure to just not to stick out and seem stupid.
Yeah, there's a difference between comprehension of something that you're being told and explained and living by it as an axiom. You know, and having explained to you that you can presuppose the sphere edge is the horizon and you've got a tangent between you and it when you measure it, you can understand that entirely and still say, well, while I understand how the reification of a globe works and how I can philosophize this into the star movements, doesn't mean I think I'm standing on a sphere. But if you say, I stand under this, i.e. I understand this, you're, in language terms, saying, I agree with this, I stand under this, this is something I adhere to, it's my way of understanding it, right? Well, no. We comprehend how the heliocentric model works. We comprehend that it's a philosophy. We don't reify it, though. So our understanding isn't to say that we live on a sphere, whereas other people's understanding, in at least the way you're describing it, would be to linguistically concede to that being your world when you are taught it and say you understand it.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty powerful thing in school because, you know, you don't want to stand out too much as a kid. You don't want to raise your hand and ask questions too much. Most people just want to get through it, you know. And I've seen that even in the adult world when you're doing an orientation or something for a construction site or a nuclear facility. The guy that raises his hand all the time is kind of the jackass, and everybody's irritated by him because they just want to get through it. They want to say they understand it so that they can just get through it and get to what they want to do.
Yeah, that was my issue. I was the guy in school that raised his hand, often asked questions that didn't want to be answered, and therefore often got kicked out of classes. Therefore, I ended up being in quite a number of different schools for various different reasons. And, you know, like you say, that's not the guy they want there. They want the guy that just can parrot, a guy or girl, that can just parrot off what's been said to them, write it down on the blackboard, repeat this verbatim. If you can, then you'll do well. You know, not raise your hand and ask a question. Raise your hand if you've got an answer to my question as the teacher. That's okay.
I guess I'm
it's pretty sad.
In the Jackass Club myself.
Oh no! I mean, everybody does it. I mean, I'm still guilty of it at times.
No, I was that guy. I was agreeing with you. Meaning, I was just like Nathan said. I didn't care what they thought. I just kept doing it, and they all thought I was one, but I didn't care.
Well, I mean, we weren't all flat earthers for our entire lives. You know, there was a point where we just kind of conceded at some point to quit arguing with them. And that's sad that they force that onto kids.
True, but there's certainly in this panel and in my experience with other flat earthers, I've interviewed a lot of them. They all have a certain quality about them. I'm not saying they're rebellious, but there's a certain nature to the person that doesn't conform. I'm not saying that the people I've interviewed are non-conformist. But by the same token, they've obviously rebelled against part of the programming to begin with, which just in itself says something about that type of person and their personality. So when we were discussing the corona, and I was saying there's a type of person that wants to be scared, you know, your normie. Well, that type of person isn't going to be the type of person that wants to consider or ponder the nature of their own existence. They've been told already, and it's no longer of concern to them.
Yeah, you don't want to believe. What was that they read off yesterday about believing? I heard that, like how to debate a flat earther. That was sad.
You've got to ask yourself, why can't flat earthers keep the faith? Was how it was paraphrased by me. But yeah,
it's sad.
Now see, John. I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was just saying that's pathetic. That's their best argument to give to people. is to treat us like we're religious outcasts or exiles or something.
Well, when that happened to me in school, instead of the way you described it, I felt sorry for them. I don't know why, but I knew that I had something like logic working for me or facts working for me. And when they would, and my hand would always go up to ask questions, and eventually, like you said, the student starts looking at you and saying, "Come on, man, we're just trying to get through this." You know, that kind of get by attitude. I never had that get by attitude. It was, "No, I'm interested. I want to know. And why are you avoiding my question? And why is everyone looking at me? And why are you trying to make me feel dumb for asking a question that you look dumb for not answering?" So I always looked at it from the other point of view. And of course, it went unanswered. And you just put it in the back of your head and say, well, these people must not know the answer then.
Yeah, beyond the syllabus, what you're supposed to be parroting verbatim, that's all the teachers are interested in. Get through.
Yeah, I think.
Go on.
I think I got to that place where it clicked, and I'll tell you what clicked, and I'll say it in a sentence. Okay, I'm just here. They're trying to push everything down my throat. They're not answering my questions. So I just got to make it through this grade, and maybe the next grade will be different with a different teacher. Then same thing would happen there. Then I realized, okay, the whole school system is the way it started when I first picked up on it. I can't wait till I graduate high school so that I could go start a business. That's what happened to me.
Yep. But maybe the greater population simply couldn't cope with this. You know, like we were talking yesterday about you being Morpheus with your example that we played. Well, in the same way as I gave you the example at the beginning of the scene with the woman with the red dress, and he's explaining that a lot of people don't want to be woken up. Well, maybe, just to put it out there, maybe there is some method in the madness. Maybe without some sort of control structure over the general populace, there'd be a lot more chaos for the sake of argument. And therefore, you know, people have recognised whenever that they need some sort of control structure put over people, some sort of explanation for what the heavens are, otherwise they'll all go nuts. Maybe, I'm just putting it out there.
Well, there's definitely a control structure out there. As to the reasons, they're probably innumerable.
I'm smiling because it's really difficult to put a positive spin on the incredibly nefarious control structure that we live under, and it's definitely just, it's not there for our benefit in the slightest, and why I could even postulate that is beyond me, but there might be people in the audience that nodded along when I said that and went, yeah, maybe it's for our benefit.
Well, there are certain ones that are, like if you have, say, a republic and you have laws that run that country, not votes. There's democratic system, 51 beats, because what's left is 49. But the republic, the laws make the rule. It's not the vote. So, but that gets changed over time, like in the U.S. it has, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. But law enforcement, I would say, red lights, stop signs, those needs to be enforced. Some control features are needed, or else people get run over.
Okay, so you're saying the social services that we receive as a general public, they are of benefit. Like in Life of Brian, when they're arguing about the Romans, and it's like, what have the Romans ever done for us? And he goes, well, the aqueduct, the roads, public health.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah,
they're not so bad after all, those Romans.
I mean, we want the police to arrest the bad guy, but we don't want the police to be the bad guy. But nowadays, the police also is the bad guy, and he arrests the bad guy and the good guy. So everything's flipped.
You gotta laugh.
Well, it was actually law that led me into flat Earth.
From law to flat Earth.
Yeah, the way that the child care systems are set up, the mother, if you're not married, automatically gets custody of the child. And I was with a girl who I really didn't think out having a long-term relationship with, but at times I felt like I was the only one concerned with the child's well-being. But the state assisted her in pretty much eliminating me from her life. And like I spent about $10,000 in lawyers where we weren't married. That really hurt me. I couldn't even get the paternity test, It made me start really looking into a lot of things. I think that's where my first doubt and authority come into be.
I see.
But the definition of knowledge in the legal structure is interesting. I don't want to, like if you go into Black's Law Dictionary and see what the Supreme Court says about knowledge, it's interesting. That's all I can say. I don't even know if I can describe it.
I've got 8 minutes before the show starts. Go ahead, tell us. Or just give us a précis.
Well, they say that it's both positive and imputed is what they claim knowledge is because you have positive claims. But the imputed part means that you take responsibility for a person's existence, whether you're aware or unaware of their existence. And that always rocked me. I still don't know if I completely comprehend that.
Can you say it once more?
Imputed means you take responsibility for someone's actions, whether you are aware or unaware of their existence.
Doesn't that just refer to...
I think that's the straw man.
Doesn't that just refer to a potential third party, though?
No, I think you're thinking of subrogation. Like when you subrogate your rights to like insurance, and then they sue on your on their own behalf, but they've pretty much taken those rights from you in exchange for, I guess, that peace of mind.
Okay, I've got to be honest. I don't understand, and the implications are therefore beyond me. Maybe explain a bit more.
Well, the straw man that people talk about, the legal fiction, it's actually a transmitting utility. It's what you use, because language itself is a construct, and like everything is kind of built on that. So when they talk about a natural person, there's also a legal person, and those two combine to make a juristic person. That's why you need an interpreter when you go to court. I think a lot of times people confuse those things. But without your legal person, you can't involve yourself in commerce, because that's where all contracts are, I think I kind of explained that wrongly.
I understood the whole straw man thing, but I didn't understand that how that linked to the passage in regards to knowledge. It's still beyond me. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, when you say you understand, is the claim you have knowledge of something. So to take responsibility for someone's actions, whether you're aware or unaware of their existence, that's talking directly about the straw man.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. It's I guess it's a didactical, I think it's what you call a didactical element of law that really doesn't get focused on too much. Nobody wants to talk about it.
That sounds so weird. Is there an example of someone being unaware and yet guilty of what they were unaware of?
Yeah, it kind of adds intent to, stuff without your knowledge of that intent.
Well, I mean, I could see like say a police officer pulls you over for some kind of traffic violation and comes to your window and says, "Do you know why you're being stopped?" And you say, "No, I don't." Because then he says you were doing this there, or you should have done this, and you say, "Well, I didn't see a sign, I didn't see anything posted to say to do that. Is there something there telling me that? Because I'm unaware." He says, "Well, it doesn't matter. You broke the law, so I'm going to get a ticket, but I didn't see anything to tell me that I should have done something." And many people have gone to court and forced the local municipalities to put signs in those places so that people could see the sign and obviously change the way they drive because of it. And so they were handing out tickets. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember there's several stories of people going to court, making the municipalities put up signs because they were getting tickets and they were unaware why they were getting tickets.
Yeah, but that's not directly linked to it, like, because you're talking about a crime when you invoke law, but if there's no injured party, you need a corpus delicti, subject matter or jurisdiction, and things like that. There's elements to crime. And when you say, when you agree to a certain stipulation, like the speed limit with that policeman, which is necessary, like I'm not saying people shouldn't go the speed limit, but when you understand that, you're kind of invoking the straw man, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, I'm not. Speed limit would be posted, so if you're going past it, then you're guilty. Period.
What he's trying to say is, when you got your license, when you walked into the DMV, you put on your little strawman your little strawman coat, and you registered as your strawman identity with your capital names, and then you participated in all of the road traffic acts that are applicable, whether you understood that or not.
Okay, I'm totally following you there, and what he was saying, I'm just still trying to figure out where this unaware comes in the other aspects. I was just using the traffic's example because I was aware of one.
Well, when you went to the DMV, were you aware that there was a legal person and a natural person and a juristic person? Like, we're not aware of law. We don't understand law.
No, I was
very few
16.
Understand law.
I think I was 16 and a half or 16 when I got my license. So no, I was not aware of any of those things. Right.
Not relevant though, because you did. Whether you're aware or not, you had your strawman coat on. your entity that is the corpse or the corporation that is you went in and did business under your strawman name. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter whether you're aware of it or not. Most people are unaware of it.
Right, but that knowledge is imputed.
It doesn't say on my license 10th man, so I got one on them.
No, it says 10th man in capital letters, though, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't say 10th man at all on my license. So
you know what I
like
mean.
that name. I know what you mean. I'm having fun.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video, join the panel, and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Paul Hall, 10th Man, Chocolate Saiyan, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everyone. Hello, welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
I must say I'm completely unaware of that.
Apparently,
Not
we
on-
don't see it.
Apparently.
On Earth.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Yep.
If you ever get that as a rebuttal, all horizons are apparent, meaning you can see them. Apparent also meaning not actual, not a physical geometric sphere edge, in other words. But you don't have two horizons. We only have one horizon. The horizon in the globe model is geometric. And if they tell you that it only exists in the maths, welcome them to Flat Earth. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever.
Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
Thank you. Axial rotation? No. Where's the axis? Axis of what?
The axis of evil.
Well, the axis of evil certainly is spinning these days.
Haha, good one.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Is that you clinking your cup, Arwin?
Nope.
No, that was my ring finger clinking the cup.
Okay. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's
No
over there.
evidence.
I can see it.
Any evidence of the distance to it?
You would have to actually measure that. But if, yeah, there's one problem, you know, because those last couple of miles, or what is it, a couple of 100 miles towards that giant flaming ball of gas in the middle of a vacuum, yeah, you're going to burn up, or time and space is going to bend because of the gravity of it, if you can resist the heat. And then, yeah, how do you measure distance when space-time is actually bent because of the gravity, you know?
Wow, so many begging the question.
You
Just
gotta
for-
start. You gotta start making the sounds like when we go into Narnia. You're like.
Sorry, I just had Interstellar on my mind again.
My apologies to the audience for the lack of violin music before Arwin's explanation there.
How did you know? It's that damn violin chord that keeps echoing in my head from Interstellar.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
Well, maybe in the future there will be changes in gravity and like local manipulations in gravity that will enable people to basically assume there is a variety in gravity and thereby scientifically proving it in order to then continue on and try to fix all these issues with gravity from the different perspectives and get a unified gravity theory so we can finally settle all this.
Hold on,
Oh,
let me
wait, we already have that. It's called relative density.
just check my listening skills. Hold on. Let's just check my listening skills. So you said, hopefully at some point, the fundies presumably will observe something that they can then attribute to their presupposition of gravity so that they can then go forward to scientifically validate that which they observed and presupposed was a cause of gravity, so that they can actually provide scientific validity. But the first step in the scientific method would be to observe a natural phenomena, something occurring, something actually happening. So,
Right.
but you've got a presupposition in there, Arwin.
Well, it's about how in Interstellar and this is literally a theme in there. It's kind of muffled in there. If you watch it again with an academic mindset, you'll see it this time. I saw it last time, made a real impression that they're basically saying, okay, if there is like a magnetic-like deviation of non-magnetic materials, then that would be assumed to be an alteration locally in gravity. And if such phenomena would appear, that would at the same time finally validate gravity because there is a variety in it.
You gotta say,
okay.
a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
No,
Next time.
on Earth.
We got
Oh.
to Arwin. We have to define. We have to define the word gravity first, because I'm thinking the gravity of the situation,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean what you're saying about gravity. So, which context are you using the word gravity?
Well, not in a metaphorical sense, like you are.
The gravity of the situation.
Yeah, that's metaphorical.
Okay, so let me hear yours.
Well, mine would in this case be the bending of space-time, which is a conceptual medium that
What would
is
you call
not
that?
actually a force, but people
would you
have
call
high
that?
suspicion that it is a force.
No, just tell me, what would you
And
call that? Since
It's
mine
very
is
hard to prove because, how do you
I-
bend space and time? You know?
Okay, mine's metaphorical. What's yours labeled with all this bending of space-time, hard to prove stuff?
He
What's
said
that
already. He told you. Conceptual.
called? Okay. Well, I mean, it took forever.
No.
It was
no,
very
didn't.
detailed.
Yeah, you just don't like it, 10th man.
What do you mean I don't like it? I'm the one asking.
don't
the
like
question.
it when people presuppose.
Ladies, let's just break you back apart. Okay.
Well, I'm not
any single-
skirting the issue. I'm not a lady.
Don't act like it then.
Yeah, that was quick,
Can you
bro.
both put your handbags away? Hello. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
That's a weighty question, Nathan.
Well, they might have a scientific hypothesis about how to debate a flat earther.
Just
That wouldn't be a
systematically
hypothesis.
looking at stuff.
Flat
That's
earthers.
science.
The emergence of flat earthers is not a natural phenomena.
Is it?
Could Aries
I think
failure
it
be
is.
considered?
I beg to differ.
Exactly.
Okay. Describe the effect. What's the effect?
People
Globe dies.
looking around, thinking about what is this place?
The globe dies.
And then eventually it's like, oh, wait, it's flat, isn't it? Huh. And then that realization, that will arrive every time. So I think it is a natural phenomenon.
Yeah, I think you should leave this in the realm of the pseudoscience globehead psychologists.
So, Arvin, since you're the DV, how do we manipulate you?
Well, you can try to find that out.
Moving on.
Oh, God.
Any evidence of our Earth radius?
No.
Black Swan.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Wouldn't the claim
Where
there
are
be
we
that
going
weight
iron?
is causing heat?
P waves and S waves and salt.
God, spurious claims. Right, John first. Wouldn't that be heat? What, John?
Well, the way I understood the model when I was younger was that the weight of everything above the core is is causing the heat. That's
What
You got
core?
to pre-assume. Yeah, you got to pre-assume there's a core, and there's a whole sphere imagery in front of you when you start saying that. But you got to prove that first.
Well, yeah, but as you increase the weight on something, you increase the pressure on something. Pressure and heat are related.
Oh, he's almost there.
Yeah, I know. I can't do it. I'm trying.
So, if high pressure at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, then presupposed spherical Earth.
Well, I never heard anybody go after that topic, so I just tried it. I tried it.
They typically use magnetism. Anybody more? Any more? Tenth, you wanted to add something on that?
No, there's just no. No, I was just saying that if, like, when he says if and the weight on, well, what are you assuming when you say that?
And is he invoking gravity when he says wait? He is. Anyway.
No, I think I'm claiming that pressure and heat are related at best. I don't even.
The way to do this would be to tie it to gravity, and then you have everything moving to the presupposed center of the mass of the Earth, right? So therefore, when you're justifying it, you've got your presupposition within the begging the question reification fallacy of gravity to say that everything's moving towards the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, because there's your presupposition and the thing you're trying to prove within your justification and your fantasy about gravity. So you can, rather than just slipping in, well, if Earth's a sphere with a presupposed spherical mass and a core at the center of it, then we're going to have the effect of pressure. You'd say, well, because obviously gravity would dictate that we have everything moving towards the center of a presupposed spherical Earth. You've got that in the presupposition's already there, part of your that's why they use gravity so often. It assumes so much for them.
Well, when they
it's hard to make a claim using a convention. It makes for bad logic.
Indeed. Well, that's all they've got, though, isn't it?
When I hear the word core, I'm thinking the core of an apple. I'm thinking things like that. And when they are using it to talk on this subject, they're meaning the core of the Earth, which is a ball. But core is the imagery in this argument is they already presuming a globe.
Yeah, at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, as per the question.
Right. But, there's a computer core. Is a computer in the shape of a ball? Is the core of the argument, is that the shape of a ball? Is that what it means? So definitions and what they mean and how you got to prove it first before you assign some kind of image to it or shape.
Well,
that's what we do, right?
Fine. Yeah, that's where we get to Paul. So Paul claimed P waves, S waves, and salt. Go ahead, Paul. Maybe not.
Well, Paul is.
I got to get to the mute button. You got to give me a minute to get to the mute button. I might be across the room.
No worries.
Well, they shoot these waves down into the Earth, and they come back with these certain resonances or certain things. They say because this happens, that's what's going on down there. And I've also heard that if you melt salts, and they can actually create a magnetic field. So that's the proof of the molten iron core. So that's kind of what I've heard.
Okie dokie. Quick shout out to MC Universe, Sacred Truth Seeker, who says, all mountains are melted buildings! ! Study the channel, quote, when the buildings cried. For this mind-blowing revolution, not tree stumps, melted buildings! ! Well, thank you very much for the super chat, MC Universe, Sacred Truth Seeker. Keeper, rather.
Can I just ask something quickly?
Push can, Dr. Crypto. Go ahead.
Fantastic. I suppose you guys have seen this space.com article that's been released a few days ago.
Yeah, we covered it in yesterday's show.
Yes, okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting because what you said about all they have is bad arguments, and it's not just us saying it anymore. They say it as well now. So both sides are agreed. They have bad arguments, and so now they've moved on to building trust instead of actually arguing the points.
Are you saying the Globe
Yep.
side is asserting that the space.com article's garbage? Is that what you're trying to infer?
No, what I'm saying is in the space.com article, they say don't bother arguing the evidence, which is more or less an admission that they don't actually have any.
Yeah, that's precisely what Anthony
I
Riley
agree.
said when he read that out. Yes,
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. Shout out to Sean Tibbets for the super chat. He's sent a sign that says, I think it just says flat. Does it say flat? Can't read it this distance. Thank you for the sticker.
Well, at least we can say something about that article. It was honest to the core.
No, it was anything but.
Just get the last housekeeping question. It wasn't flat, it's fist. And then the other one says bump. Fist bump. Thank you very much for the sticker, Sean. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for the gas to press upon?
Like to see him try.
Just use 2 containers, and then you got net container 0. There you go.
Net container 0.
Yep.
What?
It's a spin on the net force 0 when things are just in equilibrium. But he's talking about a container in substitution of the net force that isn't a force that you can think of as a force,
Yeah,
called gravity.
Maybe he thinks, using 2 containers cancels, one cancels the other out, and then you have no containers.
Yeah.
Because maybe everyone was supposed to just ignore that he's got 2 containers in the video that says gas pressure without a container, because that's how that works.
But we discussed it in the pre-show, so John was pointing out exactly that your typical baller will come along and describe how you can have gas pressure without a container, and the example will come by way of containment.
Yeah.
Every time.
Well, on this subject, aren't we really saying open versus closed systems?
Well, not really. It's ascertained in their model that it's an open system in a vacuum. So they like to argue about they like to argue the semantics of what they mean, because they'll make the assertion that they've got an open-closed system. Because that's a thing. That contradiction in terms.
I know Flatzoid's not here, but wasn't it Sly Sparkane that sent him a message that said something to the effect of the Earth is a closed system that is open?
Yeah.
Really?
What?
Why did he do that?
I don't know. It's in
Because
Master
they're
B. You
dumb.
can go look at it.
Look, if you're in cognitive dissonance,
they
you're just
do
going to
this?
spew out the contradiction that you've got that you're holding. If you're holding 2 positions at once, right, we can have gas pressure here like a closed system, but we can still escape the closed system because it's open. That's how you've got Voyager going out to the far reaches of space, right? Well, that makes no sense. So you're going to declare that nonsense, much to our amusement.
Well, that's why I brought it up,
Well-
because if it's an open system, you can't have gas pressure. And if it's a closed system, you could, but then that would invalidate getting out.
If you use 2 fallacies in your argument, do they cancel each other out?
No, if you use a begging the question and then tag that onto an affirming the consequent, it doesn't suddenly make 2 wrongs making a right, which they don't.
Well, that'd be math, wouldn't it? 2 negatives making a positive.
Logic and math.
Hang on to that one.
Yeah. Okay. When you're making a logical consistency argument, it's not necessarily going to be validated by mathematics. It might have some mathematics in it. It might partially be utilising mathematics as part of the claim. In the case of Modus Tollens and the Black Swan, you're using the geometry mathematics to debunk the assertion that we've got a physicality to a sphere-edge horizon, they claim.
Yeah, multiplying negative numbers is conceptual only. That doesn't actually work in the real world.
I'm sure there's an example with ice creams. I can't remember.
Well,
Does
a
anyone-
fallacy's a 0 anyway, isn't it? It's a null argument, so it just makes everything back to 0, right?
Correct. It makes your argument void. So if your argument is an attempt to prove something and your argument is fallacious, the argument is instantaneously deemed void if it's fallacious reasoning. Now, I've explained this before, but the fallacy is to assert something with fallacy, making the argument for the thing you're trying to prove void. You could make a fallacious argument for something that's true. Now, if you declare as the opponent that it's automatically false as a reason of logic, when you've got a fallacy, therefore making the thing that's being claimed void when it could still be true. That's why they claim fallacy. However, if the only thing you have to make the assertion is the argument and it is fallacious, then the argument is void. There's nothing else to back up the assertion to claim fallacy.
Well,
So fight the flat Earth.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, so fight the flat Earth made up a new fallacy when he claimed fallacy to defend his fallacies. So it's like another step onto the fallacy, isn't it?
Well, it just...
Well, we were talking about this the other day.
Fallacy.
Sorry, that's why I wanted to get in, because I was talking about this on the 24/7 stream. Sorry, I didn't mean to advertise for you. It's a fallacy. Because what they're doing is they're saying, if I shout fallacy, it validates the initial claim, which of course it doesn't.
That's correct. That's their attempt, right? Just by saying, you're just saying it's wrong because it's a fallacy. Yeah? Well, that is the argument of the fallacy, but you've then got to actually demonstrate your claim to be true. So, for example, if I make a fallacious argument that I've got a silver car, now I'm saying that because I've published videos about the silver car I've got, so most people are aware I've got a silver car, I'm not lying. So just for the example, it's something that's actually true. But if I make an argument for me having a silver car with fallacious logic, you can then cry, well, that's not true, that's fallacious logic. But I can cry fallacy, right? Because it doesn't necessarily make it invalid just because the argument is a fallacious argument to prove the claim true. But in order to cry fallacy, I've got to actually show it to be true, i.e. with a picture, right? But if the only thing making the assertion is the fallacious argument, then it's void in its entirety because there's nothing else backing it up. That concludes the housekeeping.
I was going to say, didn't they extend the Earth's atmosphere all the way to the moon? And why did they do that? Remember that story?
Just poetry. Just numbers in a model.
Well, but didn't that destroy their model before that? When just
on the model that we don't live on, that you can change any numbers you like on, that model.
That it just gave a more prominent place to they gave more recognition to the gradient that should be there in some way. So,
so that was the purpose.
They
gradient.
They just
love to mathematically describe
how
things,
much the gas would stick.
But
to
when
the
you
wall.
say, okay,
Sorry.
Go on, you've got the airwaves now, Elijah. Don't stop the moment everyone else shuts up.
Yeah, I was saying that they love to mathematically describe things, but when you say, okay, can you show me that in real life, that what you're describing is actually happening, they drop the mic.
Right. And formerly, 2015 or whenever, when you asked them if they could demonstrate this example, well, can you demonstrate that you've got a gas pressure gradient all the way to the moon in a sky vacuum known as outer space? Then they'd say, yeah, of course, we've got this whole space agency that operate in the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum with pictures. I've never been, but obviously this space agency can be trusted, operating out of Narnia. I mean, out of space, a vacuum with gas that we breathe, not filling it. Of course they can be trusted. Here you go. That seems to be sinking in with our opponents. It's only taken about 3 or 4 years. Everything.
Yeah, isn't the container in... I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, isn't the container in their argument the universe? Like the boundaries of the universe ever expanding?
Well, how is that containing anything in terms of the gas that we're breathing? If that's the container, then the entirety of that container, by way of entropy, would be what the gas we're breathing would fill.
It's funny though, they used to say we didn't need a container, right? But now all of a sudden the universe is the container? Because it's been more than once since I heard that.
That's a
So I'm
pretty
like,
big
oh, so
container.
we do need some type of a container.
The value for their container is infinite, so that's not a container. Is
So
it?
okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
So they've got an
but they're
infinite.
saying
That's
Sorry,
fine. So their assertion is we've got an infinitely expanding massive container for the gas that's expanding at high speeds in all directions to fill. So it would have filled it.
Oh, but hold on.
No,
it's
but it's
still in
still
the process of
expanding.
filling it. That's the whole point.
Right?
The actual container is infinite, but the galaxy is expanding. See? So the gases, everything presumed to be out there, that is the thing that is expanding in all directions. No, the volume is infinite.
Yeah,
The container itself is not expanding. It is infinite, supposedly.
But that's what Nathan's saying. If the volume is ever even there, the way they say, and how far it is light years away, how is it that this atmo is around this ball and won't go there if gas behavior is to expand in all directions? Why is it just stuck on the ball?
Precisely. If their assertion of infinite volume is what they say is the container, then the gas would fill that infinite volume. That's precisely our claim. Yeah, space is fake because if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Saying, well, it's an infinite expanding gas, devoid of gas area, therefore a container, is like, no, therefore it's an infinitely expanding volume for the gas we breathe to fill, and fill it would, it's called entropy. The fact that we'd still have gas debunks your claim that you now say is an infinitely expanding volume, aka container, which would be the area that the gas we're breathing could fill.
But don't they have a number for their value?
No, but that's only
Because I could have sworn I've heard John state what their value is.
Yes, they have got a number for it, even though it's claimed to be infinitely expanding chocolate. I don't know what the number is, but yes, QE has quoted that number a couple of times. I don't know what his source is, so I can't parrot it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Nathan, the container is the
very
gases
off.
bouncing off each other.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Neil, but it's still expanding in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill, regardless of whether or not it bounces off each other on the way.
I'm just telling you what they say.
So if you drop a bouncy ball, that's not showing gas behavior?
No, that's a solid.
Oh, see it.
You've been watching too much of that Thunderfoot clown. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. Oh, you know, Nathan, if the universe was infinitely expanding, then gas pressure would never find an equilibrium without it being separately contained by a physical container.
Right. In other words, we need to have containment to have gas pressure? Go ahead, Dr. Crypto.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is this another one of those cases where we've got gas pressure without a container but with two containers, but this time it's gravity and the infinite universe?
Gravity's not a force.
No, I know. I was just wondering if this is another one of those fallacious arguments.
Yeah, they do. They assert that, but gravity's not a force.
And even if it was a force can't contain gas pressure expansion.
Yeah, it's not going to overcome entropy. But it's not a force, so it's not forcing gas to do anything in any event.
Maybe it's different up there. Who knows?
Well, now in the Einsteinian argument, wouldn't gravity be an inertial direction, limiting the number of microstates?
Yeah, it would. Downward vector only.
Well, no, it would be an upward vector with Einstein, but I mean that's still a problem because you can only show any kind of vector with either liquids or solids. So,
but the two aren't intertwined anyway. The second law and Einstein are not intertwined. Quite the contrary.
No,
you can't overcome entropy with Einstein's maths.
What if you believe you can?
You can believe you can.
Yeah, they have a volume of 3.58 times 10 to the 80 of cubic meters.
That's a lot of space.
So, yeah. A little bit.
I've had a question. The more that I thought about this stuff, they say mass attracts mass.
No.
So how does the bending? I know. Hang on, Nathan. I'm going to develop a contradiction. But the bending of space-time, that's not an attraction. How does that attract?
It doesn't, but it isn't. That's 105 years out of date, the whole mass attracting mass. We've drawn a line in the sand on this one, Paul.
Oh, I know. But I mean, if they start arguing that mass attracts mass, which is Newton, it's out of date. But then how does, even if that was the case, and they say you can merge the two, how does the bending of space-time create an attraction of something?
It doesn't. You can't superimpose fourth dimensional space-time onto Euclidean 3 space. They're completely different geometries.
No, I get it.
They do it with satellites.
Think through their rhetoric.
But bending geodesics in space-time cannot be somehow folded into something that doesn't have space-time in it. You can't do that. The two are completely and entirely incompatible with each other. As much as they might try and tell you that that's not the case, they'll never show any maths saying, "Oh yeah, one divides into the other." No, it doesn't. No space-time. Go ahead.
I was even thinking about Zanuck's centrifuge. And he uses that creates a differential pressure to extract other gases, but it's obviously contained. But that's centrifugal force. How is that an attraction? Even in that argument, I still don't get it. I'm starting to think of their examples and what they're using, and I'm like, they use one example, and they say it's an attraction, but then the example they use has nothing to do with an attraction. So I guess I'm starting to see all the logical inconsistencies with it all. Even their own analogies are starting to fall apart.
Smoke and mirrors, man. Smoke and mirrors.
Exactly. It's just magic. And the thing is, the magic trick's nicely laid out if you're doing enough research to tell you how it's a reification fallacy, how it's just maths or poetry, as Anthony Riley, Sleeping Warrior, puts it. So, you can, at surface level, just take it as read that you're standing on a sphere, even though it's not the case, it's merely a philosophy.
Yeah, I agree. I just trying to understand their rhetoric as usual, and I usually get myself into a hole and don't know how to get out.
Kind of embarrassing.
Agree.
It's embarrassing though, isn't it, at this stage? Because we're pointing out daily how you've taken a philosophy, a conceptualization to understand the movement of a light in the sky, and said, no, that means I'm stood on this conceptualization to explain the lights in the sky. I'm actually now in that. I'm in the model. I'm on the model. It is literally reification.
I am the model.
Well, I did have a Glober, I think it was about a week or so ago, actually admit that they tried to use the fall down and go boom boom to predict what's going on in the sky. He actually said that. And then remember, I don't know if you guys remember, I've been saying that for quite a while, that they are trying to see something going on here and say that works the same way up there, and you can't necessarily say that. It could be different things that are causing the effects that you see in the sky.
Could be. Yeah, we have no idea what's going on up there.
They don't even know what's going on down here. Tell you what's going on up there? The hell?
Yeah, but somebody somewhere knows what's going on down here, Chocolate.
Yeah, not those guys, though. That's why they're like, look up there, look up there.
The only pressure they feel down here is the stress they get when we ask them these housekeeping questions.
They could just not worry about it. Even if they've heard us explain that it's merely a philosophy, just go in peace. Don't worry about it. Just continue with your reification and don't let it stress you out. But it does, though, doesn't it? Because cognitively, this bit of dissonance doesn't sit well with anybody. Why would it? You've got two opposing points of view. One that says it's merely a philosophy, a model that you've reified, and the other that says, no, I am actually standing on a sphere. I've seen it in Superman.
But that's the cognitive dissonance that is in their head, banging like a big drum, because they're offering stupid answers that they know are stupid, and they're still, but it's got to be a ball. And so they're under all this stress, pressure, different kind of pressure.
Do we know anything that's going on? What about in there, in the Earth? Can we figure out what's going on in there?
No, 8 miles is all they've ever dug.
Well, I know that I got a water table under my property, so there's some water that I get my well water from. I know that much.
Well, we're almost there.
Well, water is the best.
You have a couple of sticks. Go with that. Phil?
We're gonna go on that one
We
again.
could do some assuming. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Good
Chocolate,
times,
come
man.
over here. You jump in one well. I'll jump in the other. We'll have 2 sticks. In fact, we can form a rock group. Sticks.
Oh well.
Boom, boom.
Babe, I'm leaving.
Nice one, Chocolate.
Just out of interest.
Why is it so quiet? Where are all the ballers? Aren't they typing in Discord like 24 hours a day? Like, where are they?
I don't
What's wrong with y'all, man?
I don't watch the
Chocolate, was that
Discord
on your
chat.
bucket list?
Yeah.
Just out of interest, I was going to ask you three on the panel especially, obviously feel free to pipe up in Discord if you've got an opinion on this. When I say that it's our own fault, based on the fact that the information we expose on this very show is typically their own rhetoric from their own priests. You know what I mean, 10th Man, when you're bringing up Andrew Thomas Young? That's their words, right? And we're using them as hostile witnesses. So based on that, I postulate that it's therefore our fault. We just weren't, what's the word? Diligent enough to do the research, and we took, if you like, the people who were just parroting off the curriculum at their face value word, didn't listen when they said the word model, and therefore fell into a trap of reification that, if we'd have studied a bit harder, we'd have realised. So therefore, it's our own fault. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people who perpetuate this shit out there. Obviously, we're dealing with them on a daily basis. But by the same token, I stand by that. I think it is, we are guilty of that. And it was nice and refreshing to hear Tommy say it as a newbie to Flat Earth. I'm guilty of just not looking into this stuff carefully enough. Would you agree? Is it our own fault? Or have we been lied to by the...
To a certain extent.
Go on, Neil.
I disagree to a certain extent because we were taught this at a very young age. Like I said, we were still doing 1 + 1 is 2 and rat, cat, and mouse and all of that stuff. And then they throw the heliocentric model at you.
Well, I would say that I agree 1000%. I've been saying this for a pretty long time now because it's not like I'm debating Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of these people, right? I'm debating friends and family and zealots. And sometimes I don't know if I can call them any different. Sometimes it feels like they're all the... But what I'm saying is it's hard to blame the unseen when the people that cause the most disruption in this arena are the people that you're supposed to be educating. They're the ones that are obfuscating. They're the ones that are fighting for this religion, even though you're trying to show them simple things and how the model isn't working based on the reality that they can actually look out into.
That's not the question.
It's not.
Well, the question is, do you agree that it's our own fault in terms of our brainwashing? So far, you've said no on the basis that that people are trying to brainwash you continually. That's what I got from your answer.
Well, Nathan,
no, I'm saying it. I'm saying it's our fault because, again, well, okay, sorry. Well, like you said, it's very easy to see the moment that you see it that they're not even saying that what they're saying is reality. They tell you it's a model, like you said. I agree. Perfect. We just missed it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to reply to Neil with. So they taught you from a very early age about the heliocentric model. Now, you could say that the early age bit is still nefarious, right? 1 + 1 and then Earth is a sphere. Yeah, I can see your point there, Neil.
I like to comment on this. We started the show with positive claim, imputed, and I think it was John who said it was aware or unaware of something's existence. So when you're young, like Neil is saying, it's not on the top of your list of things to even attempt to understand. You're just being taught so many things. But later, when you accidentally or by invitation join the Flat Earth debate show, and now you hear things about it, now you're aware. Now, what do you do from that point? So Elijah's saying that he's making people aware. So Elijah is basically an extension of a Flat Earth debate show, except he's sitting around a table having some food and talking casually with them. All of a sudden, they get all uptight and they start defending. So the actual thing is that these people are not fighting what Elijah's saying about the contrast and the good questions he's proposing. They're actually in the prideful situation fighting Elijah because of pride. Because if there was no pride, they'd say, where'd you get this, Elijah? That makes a lot of common sense. And they would just maybe together investigate. I tried this, by the way, with somebody close to me, or I thought was close to me. I said, hey, and this is right at the beginning when I first started this whole research. I said, why don't you join me? There's something that's really intriguing. And I brought the subject up, and this person says, 10th man's crazy. I don't ever want to talk to him again. Well, that's not because my arguments were crazy. That's because he's got pride.
I've been saying that for the longest.
Yeah.
It's pride.
But still, I'm swaying towards what you said more and more, Neil, as I ponder it. So earlier on in the show, we were saying, well, my kids, as an example, are a bit too early to really get into the nitty-gritty of critical thinking. And yet, in school, they're taught this philosophy. And it's not necessarily distinguished as being a philosophy.
But that's a kid, though, right? So what about the MIT professor that's got like a 2-hour lecture on like second law of thermodynamics, who talks about gas pressure? You know, the one that says, the gas will fill the available volume, right? You're teaching that. Got lectures on that. But then what? You go home and turn on your television, you see Star Wars, or you see this globe on your television flying around a vacuum, and you don't make that connection. Yeah, maybe he does make that connection, but then he just ignores it. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I would blame him. I would blame myself, because I didn't make that connection, and I should have, and I probably did when I was younger, but that was shut down. So what am I left to do after that? Right?
I wonder what all the QE
You gotta
for.
blame yourself, at least a little bit. So I take responsibility that I got fooled, even though as a kid I'm like, hey, how the hell are people sticking up under my feet to a wall?
Yeah, but we also,
that makes no sense, teacher.
Yeah, but we also detailed, Chocolate, before you got here, that when all of us who had experience of that have done that, you got kicked out of the class.
Yeah.
But isn't that right there something that's just bad in nature? Like, because you have a parent, right? The parent brought you into this world. You're saying, okay, something is wrong here with the information. The teacher beats it out of you, not physically, but metaphorically speaking. And your parent isn't there to tell the truth. I sometimes find myself pondering how much I blame my parents, because how much further would I be in my thinking if my parents would have asked the right questions rather than parroting what they learned in school, and so on and so forth down the generations.
No, you don't understand. They witnessed the moon landing. Everything changed in 1969. It was shown to
on
us.
The radio.
I've actually got that clip lined up, Chocolate. If you want to comment on it afterwards, I'll just play it out for the audience.
Edu. All right, let's try another pretty simple process. Let's just take a gas in some volume, V, and over here is going to be vacuum of equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available, right? You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available. And we're going to remove the barrier. The gas is going to fill the available volume. Take a gas, and over here is going to be vacuum, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume. Fill the available volume. Fill the available volume. Fill.
Yeah, break it down, homie. I mean, that's literally what we say here every day, but yet we're called crazy people. Meanwhile, here's this MIT professor teaching this, or whatever, wherever he's teaching from, and he gets to just do that and make money and keep his tenure and do all this nonsense. But yet we get called crazy when here is this man teaching a lecture saying the exact same thing.
Well, here's the thing, though, Chocolate. Was that video on YouTube?
It's an MIT lecture on YouTube. There's about 10 hours of it that I sat through. And obviously when I came across that particular part, having been bored to tears listening to Laws of Thermodynamics explained by MIT, I mean, I'm lying. It was an exhilarating experience. Nevertheless, when I came across that particular bit, I was like, this is it. This is what I needed. This is why I'm listening to these lectures from MIT on thermodynamics.
Well, the thing is, though, I had a baller yesterday make the argument, or day before yesterday, saying because it's on YouTube, it's not valid. You watched a video on YouTube, Nathan, so you can't use that information.
Yeah, you know, somebody on 24/7 brought that up and said, "Oh, you guys get your evidence from YouTube," and then we ask him, "Oh, okay, so where do you get your evidence for whatever the hell you believe in?" And he said, "Well, you got a flat earther who proved the Earth is spinning on Netflix." Oh, so Netflix would be better than YouTube? Is that what you're telling me? And you asserted a flat earther proved your point.
Actually, Netflix twerks the truth.
Well, you got that clipped out, Nathan?
Say again, Elijah?
Do you have that clipped out?
Yeah, it's a video
to share with the Discord.
It's called, I've forgotten the title now. It's called Globe in the Vacuum of Space, debunked by MIT, Research Flat Earth. Catchy title.
Thank you.
But isn't this what Arvin was saying? It's a paradox. In class, they tell you this, but then they tell you the opposite.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, this guy sat there and said, you got a vacuum, you got gas, remove the barrier, what happens? The gas fills the available volume. But then what? What do you do after that? Whenever you see a globe flying around in vacuum, does that connection made? Or is it just, because you've already got all the other presuppositions of all the other connections that were indoctrinated into you, like gravity and nonsense like that. So does that compensate for that? Like, does it kick in? Right? Well, because I'm trying to think about how does that thought process work?
Well, the opposite. Right? Why are they not making a connection, right?
Say again?
It's like, why are they not making the connection?
Exactly.
Why does it stop there?
It's compartmentalized thinking. It's like a strategy. It typically comes natural to people that are very good at memorizing things. And you just learn something. You learn to copy it, to repeat that, but you don't necessarily connect it to everything you've learned, you know?
Wasn't that sweet? Owen's just described them as wiki parroting pretender clowns, basically. That's what you've just done there. You've just said they're wiki parroting pretender clowns, but in a very nice way.
Well, that would be like the bottom feeder version, you know, but this is also just, it's a type of learning, you know, understanding versus memorization. And school has been playing into the memorization type of teaching for a long, long time now. So yeah, but you can become a wiki repeater, pretender clown like that, or you just don't connect the things. Because it really eludes your consciousness because you're not focused on trying to make it all connect all the time. You just want the right knowledge. You gather it.
Yeah, but why aren't they parroting this guy, right? Or George Porter, who clearly showed bromine moving into a vacuum in a closed system.
Because they don't know how to deal with it.
So we're the crazy people, right? But these guys are the guys that are supposed to be their scientists, obviously pseudoscientists. But even George Porter, I mean, that's a clear demonstration of what we're talking about. But yet we're crazy. It's fucking insane to me. I don't know. Sorry.
What else are you gonna do when you're just so incredibly wrong? Just say,
Just man up.
It's you. It's
man
you.
the hell up and say you're wrong. And damn, they got me. Okay, move on. Don't double down, triple down.
No. The best tactic is to project all of your shortcomings onto your opponent who might potentially challenge your religious rhetoric. So, ask us for an edge, ask us for a dome. Yeah? Call us insane, call us Philistines. That's the best thing to do. It's the Hillary Clinton tactic, right? Project your own digressions onto your opponent. So they call us insane, say we've got fundy religious beliefs, call us science deniers. We're asking for cause and effect relationships validated by hypothesis. That's what science is. They give us just so stories about lights in the sky, pseudoscience. But we're called the science deniers. We're asked for where our edge is, with our boat falling off it, like in the picture from the Controlled Opposition Flat Earth Society. That's what we're asked for. Meanwhile, they've got boats going over a physical geometric sphere edge existing only in mathematics that they simultaneously tell us doesn't exist. Yeah? But we're asked for the edge. That's the best way to go about these things. If you've got a religious fundamentalist viewpoint, challenge your opponent before they challenge you.
The only place a baller ever is going to call me a Philistine is in Germany.
Nope. And my point guys, the point that I was
boom,
if I may for a second.
Boom. Arwen, let me get the boom boom out. The boom boom is they can fill my stein.
The point that I was trying to make was not necessarily about the ballers. It's about teachers, people. You know, technically, a teacher like that, I don't know if he even knows. You know, so there's teachers out there that avoid like the internet, even like really old type. Like they could be telling this sort of thing about the gas pressure expansion, and just still believe in the ball Earth because they just haven't reconnected it yet. Or it just gives them a headache, so they avoid it.
I don't think
they ran into trouble when they tried that one time.
I don't think they even consider it. You're talking about normies. When we say teachers,
yes,
there's a distinct difference between the teachers we deal with, who I have a high degree of disdain for, and the teachers out in society in general. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just teaching what they're supposed to be teaching. They've not got any malice aforethought. They're not intentionally deceiving their students. So I've got no beef whatsoever with your average teacher normie.
Right, okay.
Well, that's
so you don't
only
think
reason
they
why
ever,
I brought up that point is because your question was about should we blame ourselves? Are we to blame? And when I think about that, what I think about is that guy literally saying that gas will fill the available volume, right? But that doesn't connect anywhere else. So, yeah, I blame us. I blame him. He should blame himself. We're all to blame for falling for this absolute nonsense.
Exactly. So
fantasy globe.
Precisely. When it never made sense until only in the last couple of months, because when Quantum Eraser detailed this to me, and I was like, why didn't you recognise it? And he gets all bashful and shy, and he's like, I feel really stupid for not having recognised it, And it's like, no, that's not embarrassing. None of us recognised it, right? But then you spin that on its head and go, why the hell didn't I recognise this? Yeah, this is on me. I should have recognised it. So I can't really think of it in any other way. Now, with Quantum Racer, it's about this very argument. The way he says it is, it took me a microsecond to recognise it cognitively. A second somebody asked me the question, how can you have gas pressure without a container, in reference to the sky, it didn't take him long to go, oh my God. And then from there, he's explaining how you go, well, why didn't I think of this beforehand? And yeah, everyone's in the same boat, so shame on us.
I agree.
That's why I felt so many years I went by asking myself, why does it look so flat? Like, why does it look like this? It shouldn't look like this. I needed somebody else to just put it in those words, like, well, maybe because it is flat. But they make you go so 180 from that direction, that common sense direction, that they get you. Absolutely.
Summarized very easily, Chocolate. It's a ball, you just can't see it.
Hey,
everybody.
Hey, Brian. It only exists in the maths. Just can't see it? Well, you can. You can see it in the mathematics. It only exists in the mathematics.
What do you mean you can't see it? They got pictures of it.
You basically
can't see it with your own
experience it with any of your senses.
Hold on, Elijah. Sorry. Hold on. I'll just round out Owen's point because he's got a good point now. I've understood what he means. Right on, Owen. Yeah, you can't see it. It's not optical. That's what you mean. Literally, you can't see it. No, you're spot on. I shouldn't have corrected you. You're bang on. You can't see it. It's not optical. It's geometric. It's mathematical. I.e., you can't see it. You can't see Earth as a ball. Well said, Arwin. Sorry to correct you. Go ahead, Elijah.
Totally. But that's how we see it now. But back in the day, they basically just shoved that in my face like that. And I was kind of like intimidated because they were like teachers. And it was a very weird situation. But it was like, okay, yeah, it's a ball. You just can't see it with your eyes. And it was like, okay, if that's what it is, then I guess that's what it is. And then I forgot about it again, you know? But now realizing
something about it.
What that means.
Okay, can I just hear from Elijah, then Brian?
Hi, Brian.
Right. Hi, Brian.
Yeah.
Just get into his mute button. Go ahead, Elijah.
Hey, Brian. Yeah, I was just, what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that we can experience with our senses any part of this so-called globe. Like, there's no way to sense it. It's nonsense.
That's why it's nonsense.
Right. You two of similar mind this morning, it seems. But yeah, spot on. You can't just not see it, as Arwin pointed out. You can't feel it, you can't detect it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. There's no sense that's ever going to tell you're on a spinning ball flying through a vacuum because it only exists in maths.
And then you'll have some clown tell you, oh, well, you shouldn't trust your senses. You know, that's why we have instruments. Oh, really? How do you see what's going on in those instruments? Please tell me.
You just do the geometry. No physicality required.
You don't need your senses.
Chocolate.
No.
I got you, Chocolate.
And that's the funny part too, because they told me that as well. You can't trust your senses, but that part is where my inner workings just said, no, you're just mistaken. But I didn't connect it to the globe situation because I really wanted to believe in the globe. You know, I thought all that TV screen globe in space was just so awesome. I wasn't ready to be really confronted with the reality of it.
Because it goes completely against what they teach us, which is, trust your senses. How do they teach you that? What do you have to do before you cross the street? What's one of the first things they tell you before you cross the street?
Stop, look, and listen.
Right. So from the gate, trust your senses, but then at the same time, don't trust your senses? Yeah, all right.
Right, I'll tell you, hold on just one second. Brian, do you want to get the last words in before we round out the live show and ask people to stay tuned if they're watching on a premiering stream? Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Elijah. Hello, everybody. Just a couple of small points to make about the whole personal responsibility when it comes to that kind of thing, when it comes to the belief in the globe. The guy in the MIT lecture, we can't really speak to what he knows, thinks, or doesn't know. So he could be suspecting that it's all a load of rubbish from a long time ago, but he hasn't said anything about it considering his position. On top of that, if he does go along with the whole thing, he probably just believes that gravity is real and didn't question gravity. So he just thought, well, gravity sorts all that out. Because gravity is the catch-all for all the problems they always had. We always came back to gravity sorts it out. But the third thing I want to say is, if the whole world found out tomorrow that wearing these masks, the people are wearing now, was a load of rubbish, right? Do they point at the people they call it they, who they supposedly lied to us? Or should they look in the mirror and go, hang on a second, I put on that mask?
So although it's not to the same degree as the belief in the globe, as we're taught that in school when we're too young to understand it, it's still, you do have a certain amount of personal responsibility. Every time it looked flat to you, every time something didn't make sense, and you pushed it down or hand waved it away and didn't continue thinking about it, well, that's on you. You know, you have to accept that. You know, people don't want to accept that.
And with that, sorry to cut you off, Brian, I'll say first and foremost, shout out to Alexander for the unicorn. Really appreciate the sticker. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Happy with the world. So
Okay, because I've never felt that way. I was just wondering why you said it.
Did anybody hear what I said?
Daniel, I was doing my outro.
Nope.
Oh, that's why.
I would like to challenge the information.
Go on, John.
Well, Neil, that was your cue to do it. Say it.
John's already said he wants to challenge something now.
Wasn't important.
Was it important? Because John's just tried to start up.
I was going to say, when Brian brought up the masks, I think it's the same thing, because there's something that they're doing mentally to us. Because last night I watched opening night of football. Two teams playing, tackling each other, nobody wearing a mask. Then after the game, the quarterback gives an interview, and he's got a mask on. So what happened to the other 3 hours? Did it fly away, the virus, and come back when the game was over? It's a mental thing.
Why are you subjecting yourself to it? Oh, of course. the sports. You love the sports, right?
Into the globe. It's a mental game.
Yeah, you can't give up the football. That's basically why. So you're watching
I know
TV.
why he's doing it. He wanted to see a field goal, have Earth-based Coriolis, and score 3 points.
Yes,
That's
I
what
was
he
looking for that. They all went straight down the middle.
Right, but the bottom line is that part of society, Neil, you can't give it up. And yeah, it's like Stockholm syndrome. You want to be a part of the captive's world, but have a little moan about it. Well, it's entirely your choice. Just kick the TV to the curb. Don't go to the sports bar and watch the game on TV.
Can't give up sports yet.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give it the football though, right?
No, not yet.
I have a question about
At least,
Nathan. Could you
at
please
least at the
answer
sports
the
bar,
question?
you can feel the sun.
Hold on. John's been waiting in the wings. Neil's got his point in. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, it was about the information really is what's in question here, because there's what they call gatekeepers. You know, like even the people that come here and overtalk everyone are doing a type of gatekeeping, because controlling information is everything. I mean, they built all this infrastructure that we use to watch television, access the internet. They built all that for a reason. And a lot of it was built with no promise of profit in return when they built it initially.
Yeah, isn't that scary? Because we're part of it, right? Right now.
Yeah, it is. It's it makes you really think about you don't know what's going on.
Therefore,
you just can't.
You don't know if you're a hindrance or not. Is what we're doing
right
actually a massive hindrance to the greater good? We don't know, right? Literally, we don't know that. We could be causing more problems than they're our own worth.
They know that.
Yes.
That's why they have to come out with articles called "How to Debate a Flat Earther," and in these articles, tell them, "Oh, don't debate them with evidence and science. Appeal to their feelings and appeal to trust, because they lack trust in our pseudo-scientific priests. So don't appeal to evidence. What? Nah, forget that.
Forget about the
Just
evidence.
appeal
They
to their
said.
feelings. Just put your arm around them and trust and help them build trust." The fuck out of here.
Oh, yeah, but they
I'm
want
sorry,
to
I'm in
divide.
a mood.
But it's just buying into. Are we not just buying into the divide and conquer? Are we not just part of the Hegelian dialectic?
It would be impossible to know that from our position.
Right. From the inside out, you can't tell. Exactly. I've contemplated
It's like
it.
making
Obviously, John has too. Right, John?
Well, I'll
yeah,
comment
I
on that
wondered
one.
if
That's easy for
if
me.
actually everyone finding out that the Earth is flat would be a bad thing, and would
Perfect.
initiate anarchy.
Perfect. We've come full circle, because I started off by saying, and it was a joke to 10th Man. What if it's just for the greater good? Somebody figured out that if you take John's logic, well, if they all found out today, that could have disastrous consequences. Now, obviously, you're taking the assumption because we're already under the paradigm, but perhaps if we work that backwards, if we didn't have the paradigm, we'd have already fell into chaos for all we know.
Can I comment on the Hegelian dialect?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. We are outside of it because we're talking about it. We are talking about both sides of the Hegelian dialect. So we, in a sense, have escaped from it, and we're able to draw attention to it and then even confess that at times we were a part of it. But now, because of our thinking and the way we're approaching it, it's not affecting us, because every time we have a subject matter that's important, we say, well, is this part of the Hegelian dialect? Well, if you're in the Hegelian dialect, you ain't saying that.
Problem. We've been lied to about the nature of the world. Reaction. Debates about this subject. Solution. Offer them a new alternative model.
Yeah, the only way to not be part of the Hegelian dialectic is to control the Hegelian dialectic. So, yeah, we ain't controlling shit from here.
I agree.
What model? I'm not on the model.
Except
I think you're on the
ourselves.
model.
What model?
We control
Hold
ourselves.
on. Just because we're part of a very, very small group of people that recognise the false dichotomy fallacy that is the flat Earth azimuth equidistant global projection versus the spherical, whatever datum it's going to reference, WGS 84. That false dichotomy may be recognised by us, but that doesn't mean in any way, shape or form that there isn't a false dichotomy in the masses of flat earthers out there who hold on to a model. So, yeah, we're the small few that go, no, models are pseudoscience.
Right, but we're standing...
John, sorry, Tom, man, real quick.
No, go ahead,
John,
Chuck.
I don't agree. You say we don't control shit? Yeah, we control ourselves. We control our own thoughts. And that's the problem. That's their
Right.
biggest problem.
So when we're trying to figure out why people in this show, we've discussed specifically people on the panel have said, well, why don't they get it? You're borderline trying to create the Hegelian dialectic yourself, i.e. be in control of it, while at the same time Chocolate's verbalizing the fact that he recognises that it's just you've only got control over you and your actions. Well, tell that to Spurs when you're telling me that we're not buying into the Hegelian Hegelian dialectic, because he's trying to convert people and questioning very vehemently why they aren't listening. Right? I'm like, I don't care. Once I press the end of this record button, I'm not going to give any concern to the people who aren't converted.
Well, let me offer you an example, Nathan. See how you respond to it. Let's say you go buy something and you're using cash, and the correct change, you know what it is, but the cashier hands you an incorrect change. So what do you do?
Got a couple of choices. Yeah, hold on. Let me answer. You can stop shopping there.
Okay, that's A. What's your other choice?
Well, you could sit around arguing. You could get a manager involved, maybe call the police, do some interviews. You could do all sorts of shit.
Any others?
That wouldn't be a dichotomy.
No, any others?
No, because I'm just waiting for your point.
Okay, well, remember the story I shared a week or so ago when my wife and I went to that Mexican restaurant in town, and we ordered something, and the total came to about $15, and we get to the window, and she wants $21, and I said, $21? Look, hers is, mine's $8 and something, hers is $6, it comes to 15. Are you saying tax brings it up to $21? And she put the receipt out the to-go window and says, well, it says it right here. And I looked at her and I said, I know it says it there, but my order was this, and that equals 15. And then she goes, okay, hold on. So she goes back, comes back. She goes, well, it's right here. This is what it is. And I said, are you thinking, young lady, it's $15 is our order. Unless California just changed the tax rate, then my bill should not be 21. She goes, hold on. She comes back with the manager. Manager says, let me look at it. Oh, we spotted the problem. When you ordered it, we gave you 2 of the one thing. Our mistake. You get that for free. It's $15. So what did I do there? I offer truth. I offer truth to error. Now, am I doing something wrong when I do that?
No.
Okay, well, then that's what we're doing here on Flat Earth. The same thing. We're offering truth to error. And come on the show and debate it and tell us that we got it wrong. But every time they do, they embarrass themselves with law of non-contradiction violations, multiple fallacies, and it's what makes your show great, because we are fighting the Hegelian dialect. We are saying that it exists. We're saying it exists, but you can be outside of it too. That's what we're doing.
I got something for that. How far would you have fought that, 10th man? What if they wouldn't have came back
there
with
was
that?
about 6. Very simple. It was the drive-through, so at least 6 cars were behind me, and I was going to turn off the car until I got the right answer. So they realized, oh, okay, just even if they did give
I'm
me,
that guy too. I'd be like, oh yeah,
You
so
would've
we're going to
fought
park
that
right here then.
$6 that long?
That's it. Well, because I knew I was right.
I don't know. I'm like Nathan. Here's the information. What you do with it, it's up to you. You don't believe it?
It's
that's
my
on
money,
you, buddy.
Neil.
Yeah, but in this
not
instance, you've been
information.
wronged. Whereas in the case of the example, it's not comparable, because unless you want to go wind back the clock and go after some teacher that's taught it you under the false assumption that it's his fault, who's wronging you? That's kind of the point of the discussion, right? We're saying, well, if you look at this and study it, you can realise that it's a philosophy. Therefore, who's wronging you? Well, actually nobody. Whereas in your example, you've got somebody making a mistake. You know, there's a reason behind it that can be identified. Right. Whereas in this example with heliocentrism, well, when we look into it deeply enough, it's not that they're mistaken, they're clarifying it as a philosophy.
Right, but what I'm saying, when I brought up my story, it was in relationship to another aspect, not if you were being wronged by a teacher when you were in grade school, because you can't go back, and you weren't thinking about it anyway. My whole connection with that story is, you guys, if I didn't misunderstand it, were saying, are we in the Hegelian dialect? Are we the other side? And I'm saying, wait a minute, we're kind of outside of it, saying that there's a coin with 2 sides, but I want to jump out of that mind game and just base everything I do on established absolutes and truth. Now, I can't do it if it's not absolute or truth, because then I got nothing to stand on. So that's why I used that example. It was an absolute truth thing that the bill should have been $15.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, obviously. That's what we're laying down here, so I can't really disagree with that. Morning, Quantum Eraser.
Morning, boys.
Good morning.
You're Sprightly.
What's up, man?
Say again?
Did you're Sprightly?
I am a little bit more spry today, ain't I?
Wait. Did you have breakfast already?
No.
That's what I was.
What the hell? Don't talk about that.
Yeah,
put him on mute, Nathan. We can take him off mute and berate him.
Can I just lay down the question to you? We've used you as an example in this question, much to your probably disdain when you find out the example, but there we go. In terms of the heliocentric deception, given the amount of research we've exposed that details how it's a reification or whatever, is it reasonable to assert that it's our own fault?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Quantum Eraser, ladies and gentlemen.
If I think you probably wanted a little bit more. If I think I know what where you're going with. Yeah, that's a personal question.
Yeah,
I think
it is. Yeah, I've laid it out to each, not individually, but yes.
You knew my answer.
I that's what I detailed. I'm not going to repeat it, and it's been laid down in the example, so I'm not going to highlight it now either, and you don't have to either. But yeah, it's where that since you pointed that out to me, and I was like, don't be silly. And then I've pondered it since, and I'm gone. And even Tommy was the example. Let's get away from you. So Tommy's a great example because he's like, it's my own fault. I didn't look into it enough. And you're like, yeah, right on. That's how I now recognise this. You go, when you're looking into it and highlighting that their rhetoric says it, it details it, and you were told from the very early stages when you were taught philosophy at a very young age, which is a bit weird, right, Neil? But nevertheless, they told you it was a model, and then you just didn't do any further investigation into that particular detail that they told you from a very early age.
Can I
ask a leading question
on
this subject?
Hold on.
Yeah, but it was a fascinating model.
Go on, Dr. Crypto. Ask your leading question. Sorry, 10th.
If I can rumpus everybody, because I know we enjoy all that and we're used to it. Personally bumping QE up to 249 with that profound answer of yes. Thank you.
What do you mean?
He's still lowballing me, man.
What does 249 mean? Bumping up to 249?
Well, he was 248. Now he's 249 IQ.
Is this arbitrary, or does this have some significance in the number?
Oh, it's real, man.
Okay.
And which IQ scale is this on? Just out of interest.
Ask your real question, Dr. Crypto, if you said you had a leading question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I just want to ask, do people in the room think that every person in the world is actually capable of critical thinking?
Absolutely not.
No way. You didn't just come back from where I was driving, man. Let me tell you something. I wish I had some, the rockets that James Bond has. He hits the lever and they come up and he starts firing them at the cars. Yeah, I wish I had that.
I think if you rephrase that slightly differently, if you said, do all children have the capacity for critical thought? I would say maybe. But once they've gone through the education system, your average normally, once they're an old dog, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that question was because I suppose from the point of view of when you're talking about people who are capable of critical thinking, then I think the answer to your question is yes, it's our fault because we are capable of critically analysing that information. However, if somebody isn't capable of that, then is it fair to blame them for not doing something that they're not capable of?
No, it's not. It's a very interesting parallel with an episode of Red Dwarf, which was labelled The Inquisitor. And what The Inquisitor did was assessed people on their validity to exist based on their own standards. So the Inquisitor became you. So if I was facing the Inquisitor, he'd lift his mask and it'd be me. And the various answers that are given are quite interesting. So the cat, who's a very shallow character, only interested in himself, totally self-obsessed, the Inquisitor asks him to justify his existence, and he says, I've brought joy to the world because I have a beautiful ass. And the Inquisitor says, well, that's a pretty shallow argument. He says, yeah, shallow argument, but a great ass. That's his reply. Now, the other character, who's obviously a much more depthful character, is Lister, and he's asked the same question to justify his existence. And he tells the Inquisitor to spin on it, get lost, basically. And when it comes to deciding who's going to live and who's going to die, the character that had the most potential, the one that was capable of critical thought, gets deleted from history, while the cat is exonerated from guilt by his own low standards. And that's what you're saying. If you're not capable of critical thought, how can you be expected to think critically?
Yes.
Well, there's another aspect of that too.
I just want to clarify, I'm not necessarily making an
saying,
argument, I was just presenting that as an argument. If that makes sense.
No, I get it.
But yeah.
Can I slip in a comment on the Tommy comparison?
Sure.
Okay, so Tommy was a baller. Then Tommy at some point says, wait a minute. These arguments that I'm hearing, that doesn't support the ball. So he's finding his way to flat Earth, and he's growing each and every day. Prior to that, how did Tommy become a baller? Well, it's just the way everything is presented to him. But the minute he decided he was going to delve into the subject and heard the other side, well, if he's interested, he's going to defend his side of the argument. Well, that lasted for a while, but then eventually it got to him. So my take on Tommy is this. If everyone is responsible for everything that's ever happened to them where they're at, I do agree to that to a point. But that takes a big, significant turn when you are in the place where now you are like Tommy, and all of a sudden you're involved in a specific one of these things that you took for granted, and you are responsible for. And now you have to decide, can you argue your position valid?
Yeah.
Is it going to win it?
And what
so he can't.
And
So
what you've
he
just
now
described,
can-
is the reason.
Oh,
Is
go
the
on.
reason? Hold on, I just want to add on to that. That's the reason I hate the teachers who come here, because exactly they've got to at some point assess that. And if they're a teacher, they've got a certain education level, a certain intelligence level that is, I believe to be unquestionable. Once they've reached and ascertained that level to be teaching, then they should be capable of this critical thought. And when they choose the wrong path and just carry on lying and perpetuating nonsense and double-speaking their way out of their own statements, as is the case with conspiracy cats, that leaves me with the disdain at the highest level.
Yeah.
Pride.
So just to wrap up my point, so now his conscience, where it was not employed before, is now employed, bothering him every day, that he might be holding the wrong position. So now he's more responsible because his conscience is also hitting him like a hammer. Whereas before, just like in Matrix, everyone's thinking this is what it is. And now Tommy realizes, I got to break the spell because my conscience is bothering me. So he is now acting on conscience and being responsible.
I would agree with that. It does come down to morals and principles, but there's something to controlling information. At a base level, if you can control the information someone can receive, you can control them.
Yeah, but we didn't chase Tommy around. If Tommy came in, it was discussed. We didn't chase him around trying to make him a flat earther.
He was exposed to the information and he made that choice himself. But most people aren't exposed to the information, and then it becomes a pride thing after that. But the gatekeeping of that information is the important stuff,
You're spot on with that.
I'm fascinated at the connection that is being made for the Hegelian dialectic with what we know and talk about as the flat Earth. And I really like 10th Man. Your stance on it seems to be highlighted in my mind. For some reason, I keep going back to it. I feel like there's something to be said about where the quote-unquote truth is in this equation of the Hegelian dialectic. And I guess I want to poke at that a bit more if anyone is curious. But
I'll tell you how I think. I told my wife this many times, and it's actually an assessment of what I was doing as a kid. Chocolate could bear witness to this. 10% of everything I hear, I say there might be some truth to it. 90% I hold in reserve on every subject matter.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Even Christianity?
Well, that's why I checked it out. So it's 100% there because I prayed and I said to a God I didn't know at 14 and a half, well, prior to that, actually, at 14, if you're there and you're the creator of everything, I want to know you. I don't want it to come from church. I don't want it to come from some guy with a collar, because I had left the Catholic Church 2 years prior. I told my mom, I know there's a God. I just don't know who he is, but he's definitely not in that building. So when I prayed and did something later, I found out is what the Bible says to do with all your heart, which is seek, ask, and you shall receive. That's what I was doing. I was saying, if you're there you reveal yourself to me. Well, 6 months later, he did. And long story there in between of what took place, but it was evident God was working on me. And my conversion was from God, not by a man. I never even owned the Bible or read the Bible to that point. And the very instant that happened, my life changed from the inside out, not from the outside. It didn't take me to get up to speed. Everybody who knew me saw the change. I knew I changed, and my nature changed. I wasn't the old guy anymore. This is not psychosomatic. This is led by saying, God, if you're there, you tell me, because I really want to know you if you're there. It was just that seeking. And that's why I tell people, look, I can't convert you. I can't even try. But I could tell you, if you ask him, and if he's there, he will.
That's why they call it born again. It's a physical and mental change that people can observe.
Agreed. I like QE. He says it's a reckoning.
It's something you can't control. It's a heart matter.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
A reckoning that sends me up to 250.
Exactly how I. Everyone done?
Yes.
Go ahead, Elijah.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Eli.
No.
I gotcha. Anyway, no, that's beautiful, Ted, because that's exactly the process I went through. Probably as a child, but also as an adult. I got tired of looking to other people for answers, and I was like, "Bruh, I just need to talk to you." And he definitely did reveal himself in a lot of funky ways. Something that I can't give to someone because it's my experience. It's not something I can teach. It's just that personal relationship.
You don't have to explain it, sir. You're not really supposed to. You're just supposed to give your testimony that it did happen. And also, it brings up another point that you need to look inward for these things. And also, when you're trying to judge, you need to look inward instead of outward. You're usually the cause of whatever's going on around you. Too many people try and look outward and blame other things or other people, and we really should look inward more. If we do that, we'll find the Creator within, and we'll do more right things and get up to 250 or 251 sometimes.
My testimonies have made me great.
Okay, then.
Well, more than testimony, the life change. See, if you don't have the fruit to show the change, then that could be a one-off thing, and later you go back to what you were. I saw many people after that say they met God, and now they're a follower of God, and their life never changed. My life changed at the same time I met God. That power was not within me to do. I got a new nature. And so when people say, well, how do you know you met God? And that goes, number one, I asked to meet him. Number two, from the inside out, everything about me changed, and all my friends left me, literally left me. And I said, why are you guys not wanting to hang out? And let's play football this weekend at the park and all these different things kids do. And they said, well, you've changed. So now my friends are saying I've changed. I go, well, what do you mean I've changed? I became a Christian. I believe in God. I won't screw you anymore. I'm not going to lie to you anymore. I'm not cussing anymore. Is that not a good change? And they said, no, that's not the problem. And I go, what's the problem? He says, we feel uncomfortable around you. I go,
Uncomfortable
why?
around truth, just like today. They can't stand to be around truth.
Well, I wasn't judging them. I was willing to hang around with them and let God do the work, because I realized that religion never did it. Buildings don't do it. People with fancy shirts on don't do it. It's a cry of the heart, and God will do it. It's up to them if they want it done.
Darkness cannot comprehend the light.
Can I take it back to flat Earth for a second?
Please do.
Yes.
No.
Why, you feeling uncomfortable, Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan's there. Please do.
Well, it's actually about QE. Like, most of the ballers Yeah, well, most of the ballers, when you bring up arguments to them, they all of a sudden assign ownership of an argument, which is kind of silly, to QE. And then they try,
they are mine.
Right. But what I'm saying is, instead of trying to argue the point, then it just falls into ad homs against you, and then judgment upon the person making the argument that you've put forward, as questioning their intelligence.
I'll paraphrase it for you. That's just a QE argument, is what he's saying. They say that's just a QE argument.
Or
ask them where they got their globe argument.
Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me when they say that is, they've not come up with any arguments themselves.
Right, back at them like Chocolate says.
Ask them, are they the one that came up with the globe? Because you apparently are parroting some type of where we live on a magical spinning ball in a vacuum. Did you come up with that?
Say that's just a Copernican argument.
That's just a what?
A Copernican argument.
Copernicus, you got that from Copernicus. Yeah.
Look at you.
Look at
Copernicus parroter.
Look at
That's what we should do, though.
Yeah. It's called a genetic fallacy. That's a textbook genetic fallacy whenever they do that. Trying to impugn the source rather than the argument.
Yeah, and it demeans the person. It also demeans the opponent, because it doesn't matter if I'm using an argument that Neil deGrasse Tyson's made. I take ownership of the argument, even though I might reference or cite Neil deGrasse Tyson or credit QE in this example. Well, while they're not actually crediting him, they're demeaning the argument by way of a genetic fallacy. It's a new one on me. I know you've mentioned it before, but yes, now I understand what a genetic fallacy is, right? The origins of the argument are what you're attacking rather than the argument itself.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's my argument when I make it. In other words, it does. Although it's QE's argument, and he will forever be credited with these arguments, if I'm in an arena making the argument, it's me and my argument. I have to take ownership of the argument. Likewise, if I get obliterated, because I don't know the argument very well, not because the argument will be wrong, but if I get obliterated, that's also on me. You can't then defer the loss to the source of your argument. In other words, I can't get obliterated and go, well, it's QE's argument.
Yeah, you're right. You take ownership of it, it's yours from that point forward. Correct.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't even want to offer an argument.
Well, he becomes a hostile source quite frequently, though, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Aren't they great? Aren't hostile witnesses? Aren't they just the best?
Yeah, one of my favourite lines. It's not my claim. Hostile witnesses are great. So, are you saying that the Earth turns underneath the football? Then, no, moron. That's your claim. Just because I'm using a hostile witness doesn't make it my claim.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, they'll often say like, "Oh, you can't use that person as a hostile witness because you don't say everything he says." And it's like, what?
Oh, get him, Nathan.
I don't have. Yeah. So, like, when you quote Andrew Thomas Young, they go, "Well, Andrew Thomas Young believes in a ball."
Yeah, it's the difference between citations and references. I mean, this is from the people who will literally read off a paragraph that's detailing how much of a force gravity is, and in the next sentence it says, "But it's not a force." That would be the rumpus, cherry picking, right? These are the people that will say, if you take citation from this book and it says on page 193 that Earth's a sphere, then that means Earth's a sphere and it demolishes your argument. No, it's the difference between a citation and a reference.
Isn't that fucking stupid, man? These idiots, I can't. That's one of the stupid. Who started that? Whose idea was that? To get back to genetic fallacy, because they all think this for some reason. Well, what in the world?
I think they got it from Jose when he said, "You need to hold it close to your heart."
Yeah.
God.
If you're going to read from this book, then the book says globe. You've got to hold that shit close to your heart, man.
Wow.
So are you saying that our objective reality is about emotions now? It's like, how do we feel about the environment? It doesn't matter about measuring it or anything objective.
Don't worry about the arguments. Question why they haven't kept the faith.
Yikes.
How do we feel about the environment? I'm going to light up a cigar later and see what smoke does.
It's down, go boom boom. 9.8 meters per second.
Mostly down.
Mostly down. Go boom boom.
Well, until it goes up.
4 more hours, dude.
It doesn't go up, Dave. Universal law of gravitation. Remember, what they taught you if there's a fire, do your Spider-Man impression and climb on the ceiling.
I agree. 4 more hours. It's Friday.
I think it's interesting about the universal law.
Sorry, I had something about the universal law.
Don't worry about the universal law. We got to deal with the 4 more hours first.
I concur with that.
We don't have the universal law. It was superseded. That's the wrong pseudoscience, man.
Exactly. Where you been?
Universal law of 4 hours
versus the law of 4
how do you
more
replace
hours.
a law with a theory?
Can we ban 4 hours?
Did you say you can replace a law with a theory? Is that what I just heard?
Well, no, what I was saying, they always made the distinction between universal and natural law, and then, but then they try to say that universal laws are natural, and then they replace this supposed natural universal law with a theory, which doesn't make sense.
Right, you got it.
It's not a theory.
Yeah,
it's not a theory, though.
And it's not a theory exactly, but they tried to.
Well, wouldn't all universal law really is natural law?
That's going to need clarity for the audience. Hold on. Right. Calling something a law doesn't make it a law of nature. So,
good point.
In the case of the law of gravitation, it's been debunked. So it's not a law, right? A law would be inviolable. That's what makes them laws. Hence, it's not a law. But likewise, when you move over to the conceptual mediums being bent, it's not a theory, because that means it's gone through the scientific method and then has more than one potential experiment validating a scientific theory or giving credence to that scientific theory. But that's based on experimentation, i.e. validation of hypotheses. Well, them calling it a theory doesn't make it a theory any more than calling it a law makes it a law. It's only a law if it's inviolable. It's only a theory if it's been through the method.
Very, very well articulated. Correct.
Yeah, a lot better than I could set it. I was going to say a theory, you can theorize a theory only.
Right, well, that's the difference between a colloquial theory, i.e. Inspector Gadget says he's got a theory about what caused the murder, and a scientific theory. A scientific theory being the result of experiments that were based on hypotheses to establish the cause and effect. That's what a scientific theory is. But a colloquial theory is your best guess. But that's nothing to do with science.
In theory, it's a theory.
There's Dave. This is pruned and primed for equivocation with that theory, man.
I think that's intentional.
Yeah, I think so too.
You can't outwit a witter, right? You just can't do it. These guys are witty.
Or you can't bullshit a bullshit.
Right.
It's because they control the magic words we use. So if you control the language, right, you can introduce an equivocation fallacy just by introducing the meaning of a word that's already in existence. And you can do that if you control the language. So hence you can have the word hypothesis mean the adherence to a cause and effect relationship written down, or whatever you want to call a scientific prediction, to give a definition of hypothesis in that context. Well, if you just write into colloquial dictionaries that a hypothesis is your best idea of what might have happened, the complete antithesis of a scientific version of the same word, then you just have to introduce that, and then you've got a little magic trick that you can utilize whenever you need it. Well, that's just a part of controlling the language, because the magic, any magic that's being done, and by magic I mean, any small hoax or deception, that has been done with language. Well, that's a magic trick.
Well,
Yep.
that's like the
Agreed.
word bald. If you know what the word bald means, well, it means a man with no hair or a woman with no hair. But also, if I say the man gave a bald narrative, am I saying the guy reading the story was bald, or am I saying he lacks some pizzazz?
Yeah, and you can do that with less important words where they have, double meanings and it's contextual, so that when your magic trick words like hypothesis and science are being used in the same way, you've got a little get out of jail free should anybody call you on it. Oh, I mean, I'm only talking colloquially.
Yeah, and that's in literature also. You could do like people reify things in literature. It's part of the vernacular, right? And it's okay to do it in that sense. But when you're trying to prove reality, it's a category error. You can't do that. Words are very precise, right? A lot of people get confused with that too. I mean, I joke around with the kids and stuff because they, use rhetorical language and stuff, and that's okay. But I joke around a reification fallacy. It actually isn't when it's used colloquially and you're telling a story or you're reading literature, right? There's nothing wrong with it, right? Because that makes the story or what you're saying more relatable. It gives it a lot of color, right? But in scientifically, there is no color, right? It's objective. It's to the point. It's precise. Got it?
In science, and you did say that, it just wasn't that clear through your mic. But yeah, when you're talking about physics, the physical, the nature of reality, very specifically what we deal with here. So contextually, just by the title of the show, we're dealing in science. That's what we are dealing in. So we have a realistic justification to say carte blanche. When we talk here, we're talking science. Now, in general terms, if it's just non-scientific debate, because obviously some of the subjects we cover are not scientific, we deal in logic, but you still have to be specific about the words and their meanings. That's the Socratic method, as opposed to the scientific justification for absolutely tying down every single word that you use and what it means. So in other words, science has to be specific in terms of what you're dealing with for obvious reasons, but you also have to be specific in this arena when we're in any other subject that's being debated, because you have to have you and your opponent on the same page when you use a word, because of the convolution that can happen through magic, and that's what we have to deal with here, because that's all our opponents do. They're using magic tricks, the language being their tool.
Do you think it's partially intentional or mixed unintentional?
Can't divine their thoughts. You don't know is the answer to that. You don't know. I don't know.
The point is,
this wizardry doesn't work anymore because we found a very easy way to basically point out certain aspects of the model that don't describe what you're looking at in reality. Like, for example, the black swan.
Yeah, but the black swan is not being taught in the 8th grade right now. The wizardry is still in full force. These kids coming out of school.
But then there are other black swans like the moon phases or the eclipse.
No, but my point is the wizardry is still being taught. It's still being used. I think it's time to.
But instead of telling the kid, I get that, but instead of telling, because we have to fight it somehow, right? So people get all up in arms when you try to teach my kid about flat earth and then dumb shit, blah, 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 blah. That's unnecessary. All you got to do is go to the kid. You say, you see that moon? You see the phase it's in? You see the side that it's lit on? Did you know that the sun is in the opposite direction to the east right now? And they'll have to think about it. And you don't have to actually tell them anything. All you have to do is wait for the phase to come around that month, point it to them, and ask them to critically think about it. And then ask them to put that against the globe.
I don't talk much about flat earth when I meet someone new. I just show them a picture of the sun or the moon or something like that, or something in the distance and say, look how close that looks. or talk to them about gas pressure without a container and let them come to conclusion. And almost all of them will ask, and this is how I know they know, are you a flat earther? I'm like, yes, I am, right? And then you can talk to them about flat earth because they brought it up. But I think it's time, to use an analogy as earlier, I think it's time to turn our key off in the drive-through, right, and cause a scene. It's time for that now. We've got all the arguments. We need to all start turning our key off in the drive-through and holding up the crowd in the back and saying, you will listen to what I have to say right now, right? And if you don't
Damn,
want
we got
to,
a
drive
crusader.
around.
Yeah, we got new Spurs.
But maybe you didn't.
Yeah, we got somebody standing in front of the tank.
But maybe this.
No, they still have a choice. They can drive around, but get out of the line.
Maybe
right? Stop teaching.
Maybe the simplicity is
I think-
lost. But basically, what I was saying is, you can't shine a light in the direction of someone's face, and it doesn't light up their face. It lights up the back of their head. No one would agree to that. Logically, no one.
You can't
So when you
force
show them-
anybody.
So when you show them
in 2020,
the moon
level is curved. So
in the phase, that's
I don't know.
that's one and done. There's no response to that.
Chocolate's saying in response
it's
to that, Elijah, that at trench level, I know you're talking about when you're just having a casual conversation with somebody, but Chocolate's response was to say, the assertion we have is that level is curved. In other words, if you push certain individuals so far, they will reach the point where they will say, Earth is an open closed system, level is curved, things of that nature. That's how far it may go.
We're responsible for our
because I was
shit.
arguing after show here. I was arguing after show here, and they were literally telling me, yeah, that works with the model. You can have what appears to be the moon lit from the west while the sun is in the east. Geometrically, there's no problem with that. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, you
how
just
to do
proved your
it.
point, brother. There are people willing to say
what you
something
guys-
that's
What you
stupid.
guys aren't understanding is
Can I
sorry.
before it goes too far, can I comment on Rakia's turn off the car at the drive-through?
Yeah.
Rakia, so if you turn off your car in the drive-through, you can't expect correct change to happen.
Yeah, I've done it. They're like,
He didn't
pull
get it.
around and
He didn't
we'll
get it,
come
Tim.
out, and I'm like, nah, I think I'm gonna sit right here. Things will happen a lot quicker, right?
Boom, boom.
He didn't get a 10th. He's too focused on crusading.
There's a paradox.
Oh,
Things will
okay,
happen.
wait a minute.
Things will happen a lot quicker if I slow things right down.
Yeah, information
That's
comes
like,
quicker. Slow down
you
a
know,
little bit.
we won't feel the earth spinning until it stops, which is my favorite one.
Right, Dr. Crypto.
And we all fly off.
Okay, Dr. Crypto
Yeah,
had
I was
something
just
to
going to say, we can have open closed systems and we can have curved level because we're not working at the really is level. That's what you guys aren't understanding.
Yeah, we do understand. You can have level, not curved,
Correct
not
change.
really is
I
level.
just got it. Change. Correct.
Jeez, Hey, it's curved in geometry.
Jeez, Dave.
Level and curved. Level is not curved in geometry.
Very
It
ballers.
is over at Jim Pandas.
It is for the ballers, yeah.
It is over there. I was doing that earlier. Level curve.
Yeah,
What
open closed.
they're trying to say, Elijah, what Chocolate was trying to say is that you got people that think level is curved, right? So, and you're trying to tell them about some celestial event that's a little bit higher level, right?
I disagree. I agree. I hear what Chocolate's saying, but I disagree. Shapes and shadows. We learn about that with blocks and stuff. You know, when we're
No,
guys-
what
I
I'm
still
saying
agree
to
with
you is when you said there's no way you can tell somebody if you shine a flashlight in your face that the back of their head would light up, right? You just said it. The guy told you, yeah, it makes sense that the sun is over there and the moon's getting lit from over there.
You're right. You're right. You feel me?
Yeah, I see.
Like-
I missed that, Chocolate. Yeah, your argument's self-defeating when you get a rebuttal that says, look, it works perfectly fine in the model.
Exactly.
Would it be correct to say that the whole of the globe side have one main fallacy, and that's a curved tangent fallacy?
Yeah, kind of.
Is that correct or incorrect?
Well, no, they bend horizontal lines to be curved. So when we detail how they've got the disco ball flat surfaces, right? Well, you've got to square that circle because according to them, it is actually a spherical surface. They're not actually working with flat surfaces. It's all curving, even if you move an inch, right? Even though they're surveying it flat. Well, to get around that, you have this open-closed contradiction, level curved. It's level because they're measuring it level, but it's really curved because that's my model. So it's just a nonsense assertion.
I'm speaking about
they're trying to show you on a model.
The origins of the radius line.
No, so the origins
of the tangent fallacy.
No, not at all. So he's assuming a physical tangent point, which would be to say that when he looks at the horizon, the assumption is made that the ground beneath his feet is curving away from him, and that the line that would intersect it, which is straight, a tangent line, is going to intersect that presupposed curved surface that's moving away from his feet at a curved rate of whatever they say it is, 8 inches per mile squared. So that's his assumption. It's not assuming that the tangent's straight or bent. That's what we get at trench level. So they tell us in rebuttal to the Black Swan, the line to the horizon's refracted. So they say in rebuttal to the Black Swan, we don't have a straight line to the horizon. Well, you require one to get the Al-Biruni measurement. But Al-Biruni's not bending a tangent. He needs a tangent, and they're telling us how we haven't got one.
Yeah, but he has a curved surface.
That's his assumption. Yeah, like Craig fight the flat Earth. Well, as soon as you say tangent, well, tangent to what? Well, it's the line that you're drawing, your line of sight to an object or the horizon that you're going to be measuring. Well, why have you got a tangent? Well, because the ground beneath it is obviously curving. Well, that's your presupposition that you insert without most normies noticing because you use a ham-handed presupposition with the word tangent. So I'm drawing out a tangent line. Most people that'll go straight over their heads. They won't say tangent line, so a straight line that intersects a curved surface. Why are you assuming that you've got a straight line that intersects a curved surface? Isn't that the very thing you're trying to prove? Most people won't recognise that because they're using tangent, and that isn't your average vernacular for most normies.
It's like saying the word atmosphere, hemisphere, all that.
Or gravity.
Just gives you, you've already established that we're on a sphere.
Yeah.
Just by saying
I'll say one other thing about it.
Oh, Brian.
How do you have an angle when you have a straight tangent line and a curved surface?
He's measuring
How do you get angles?
Well, because he makes a derivative angle from an invented horizon called the celestial horizon. So from his zenith...
astronomical,
sorry, what did I call it? I called it incorrectly. Astronomical, my bad. So he's got his zenith, right? And he's already assumed that he's on a ball because that's what he's out there to measure when he's up the mountain. But he's drawn his zenith, and then 90 degrees to his zenith, he's got this horizon that doesn't exist, an imaginary horizon at 90 degrees to his zenith. And then what he measures is the dip between that line and the tangent he's automatically assumed. So the dip angle is what's going to give him the ability to perform the trig to derive the R value.
Okay, so what do they need for him to be correct? Do they need a curved tangent line?
They need several tangent. They need to assume that the line that he's calling a tangent is intersecting a curved surface beneath his feet.
Yeah, but that's not the case because even Andrew Thomas Young tells you that line from you to the apparent horizon, which is redundant, is curved.
Exactly.
Here, hold on a second. Andrew Thomas Young. So far, we have ignored refraction and drawn the line of sight to the apparent horizon as a straight line, OG. But in the real world, there is some terrestrial refraction between the observer and the horizon. The line of sight to the apparent horizon, redundant, is not straight but curved. So let's try to allow for that curvature. Andrew Thomas Young.
Well,
How was that established?
So is that not a curved tangent fallacy?
Just one sec. Just go back to the bit where he says he describes the geometric horizon in his first statement as being, quote, apparent. We're drawing a straight line to an apparent position, which he then double speaks and says we can't see. There's the magic trick. Can you just repeat that bit about how we'll draw a straight line to the apparent horizon, please, Quantum Eraser? Can you repeat that, please?
I'll say it over again because this is really good. I like it. So far, we have ignored refraction and drawn a line of sight to the apparent horizon, redundant, as the straight line OG. But in the real world, there is some terrestrial refraction between the observer and the horizon. The line of sight to the apparent horizon is not straight, but curved. So he's drawing a curved tangent. In other words.
Yep, this is where we get the term donkey dick geometry.
So how was terrestrial refraction established exactly?
We need the timeline.
Especially after he threw the regular refraction out the window and said, oh, we can get the apparent horizon without that. But now in 2020, we're being told every horizon we see is refracted? Uh-oh.
But my question would be, how did they come to the conclusion of this terrestrial refraction if you can't actually see in a straight line?
It's only in the math.
It's called tangent fallacy.
Let me just answer Arwin. Can I just answer Arwin? You can't. That's where your paradox comes in, Arwin, which is presumably where you want me to lead you.
Exactly.
But isn't the black swan just getting right to the point and saying, if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, so now we've got them on a number, so they have to stick to that number, right? Isn't that why they put that in the motor stone?
They don't like that number, although they've been throwing that number in our face for years.
No, forget tangent.
Well, like you guys have been saying, refraction makes it, again, what? Nonsense. Nonsense being you can't sense it because there's too much distortion to actually use that number accurately, even though they've never seen it before because we've always had an atmosphere. I don't know.
Yeah, but
the same number they're calling a straw man now. The same one they've been throwing in our face for years and telling us, this is your radius, this is our radius. Now we say, okay, that's your radius, then you have certain geometrical considerations you got to make. Oh, no, it's a straw man. It's fucking insane.
Okay, Chocolate, I think you did a good
disproven the radius.
Yeah, but
allow me to finish, please.
Are you going to say something, Tent? If you are, I'll say something after you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tenth. I'm a little hyped today.
No, I like it. You actually segue into what I'm saying. So you can argue tangents, straight lines, all you want. I like the modus tollens, the way QE put it together. I say, fine. Your sphere. What's your radius? Okay, it's not there. So what? Now your 264,000 mile radius? It's over. It's a model. They lied to you. Wake up. Or I could talk about straight lines.
Yeah.
No, but the paradoxical
terrestrial
refraction can save us.
He's got a point. The paradoxical...
The fallacy I'm speaking about starts with the tangent.
Yes.
It's a curved tangent fallacy.
Yeah.
Right. But
so they have to start with a fallacy.
Yeah, but you get them there after you
before they you understand? Alberuni had to start with the belief that the tangent has to be bending.
Right.
In reality.
I'm not...
No.
Andrew Thomas Young even states it.
No, that's not what he did. That's just no. That's just Andrew Thomas Young's assertion, right? That's not Alberuni's assertion. Alberuni's claimed story is very simplistic. It even disclaims in the wiki entry that he didn't account for refraction. He can't be, because as soon as you bend that line, you can't do geometry. So they can't somehow weasel in and account for Alberuni with refraction, because he's going to be deriving R to give him the refraction to account for. That's the paradox.
Yes, but how did he start with this R? He had to start with a tangent. And that tangent, to get the R they're looking for, has to, in their reality, bend.
Yeah, for them, but that's where you get Andrew Thomas Young. This isn't connected to Alberuni. That's where the argument dies, because they're saying you can't see a tangent line, it's all bent. That's Andrew Thomas Young. Whereas they require it for Alberuni's story to give them the R to bend the line that Andrew Thomas Young's bending.
Did everyone miss my point I was trying to make? Seems like it.
Quite possibly, 10th Man. Do you want to repeat it? But just before you do, Brian, did you want to add anything else?
Well, I'd like to know what QE has to say about what I'm saying.
And I'll add to 10th, man. I understand your point because basically, I mean, that's the R they use in all their calculations for orbital mechanics, gravity, all this stuff. So yeah, it needs to be that if we've been doing all this funky cool stuff in space.
Very good. You got it. So what you do, in my opinion, is you start with something that can't match up to what they believe in, which would be their R. And so the Black Swan does that. So now, after they have this conflict, because now the Earth's got to be 264,000 mile radius, if it's just 10 miles. It looks a lot further than that, but let's just say 10 miles. So it's no longer 3959, as Elijah said. That screws up orbital mechanics, everything, size of Venus. The whole thing falls apart right there. But then at that point, now you introduce geometry, tangent lines, and all that, because now in the back of his head, he's saying, my gosh, it's wrong. Okay, now how do tangents work? Where if you start with a tangent and straight lines, they're debating you like they got something. No, I'm going to knock them off the pedestal first. Then we're going to talk about tangents.
I'm not talking about a straight tangent. I'm talking about the fact that they have to have a curved tangent due to what they would say is 7/6 refraction.
Yeah.
But they can't have this curved tangent is their radius in the first place.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, that's right, Brian. Hold on, 10th. Hold on. Yes, you're correct. That's what they need. But there is no such thing as a curved tangent. That's a contradiction in terms.
Exactly.
It's mathematical science fiction.
Yeah, so it's a fallacy.
Well, they're also assuming that all the
I don't mind being wrong about this, but
no, you're not wrong.
Nobody's saying you're wrong.
It's actually the foundation of my paradox conclusion, even. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll just because you haven't heard it repeated, maybe.
That was
Hold on,
my
Brian.
paradox conclusion. You robbed that on me, Alvin.
Yeah, we'll just repeat it from.
That you came in. And you
Let me just.
hello.
I'll just credit you.
Yeah,
you're saying.
Leo Soper.
Okay. I'll credit you, Brian.
Go ahead, Nathan.
The curved tangent fallacy. Fine. Yes, Brian. Indeed, we all agree. You can't curve a tangent.
Nah.
Go ahead, Keith.
That's not a fallacy.
I know.
It's just lost identity violation.
Sure. But it's credited to Brian.
Okay, I was wrong.
You weren't wrong.
Nah.
You weren't wrong. It's just not a fallacy.
I'm claiming the curved fallacy.
Right, we're just not allowing you to invent a new fallacy. That's all. Because it does have a fallacy attached to it. So it's a law of identity violation. You can't be A and not A. You can't be straight and curved if you're a tangent.
Yeah.
Can you be open and closed if you're a system?
No.
Oh man, damn it, Sly. The hell's going on, brother?
I got a question.
But can it be horizontal and level?
Hold on, John, did you see that?
No, Brian.
No, I don't think so.
Hold on, give me a second.
Got one more question from the Discord server. Was it John?
It seems to me that all their claims about the horizon are external to the device that you're using to view it. But I don't know if that's the case. Like they'll say it's geometry and refraction and things like that. It's I don't know how to put that forward exactly as a question.
Well, it's more of a statement that I can parrot off that Rumpus made, and that would be to say that the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
a lovely day.